Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 662 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, hey. And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly, and the twins, Laurel and Hardy. Still here. Still here.
You got to be a certain age to know that one.
Yes, indeed. Today, recording day is Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. And as you can see by the redness of my face, there's sun coming in through the window. And it is, it's particularly orange and golden today, because often it's very, very light at this time. So it looks like we are going to have a nice, warm, sunny day, I would guess, here, based on the way that the sun looks.
Scheduled to hit 30 here in Ottawa today.
Okay, well, there you go. Nice, big, warm, sunny day. I think would be the first really warm, sunny one we've had so far. Because it's been pretty cool. We've had a couple of like nice days, but not hot.
We had one day here in Ottawa.
Yes,
it was about 26.
Yeah, but we didn't get it here for some reason.
Oh, you guys get it in K-Town.
No.
Yeah, it was one day we had about 26. There was about 3 or 4 days in a row where it was nice and warm, and then it went back to unseasonably cold temperatures.
Yeah, we have hibiscus that we haven't been able to put outside yet. It's normally out in April, and it's like, well, it has to be consistently over 10. It says, well, maybe first week goes, well, isn't it over 10? It's like 2 nights ago it was 8. So it's like, we can't put it out yet. Poor thing sitting by the window going, I just want to go outside and play.
Oh man.
Let me out. Oh, man. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health today, sir?
I think I'm doing pretty good, actually.
Yes.
I'm a little tired. I went to bed at the regular hour, and according to my sleep monitor thing here, I think I got a full night's sleep. So
nice.
I don't know. It just, it just, I might have gotten the right amount, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's restful. Oh no, according to this, I slept, 5 hours. That's okay. Yeah, 5 hours is okay. I can live with that. Usually I get 6. 6 is ideal for me. I might have had 20 minutes of deep sleep, if that. The rest of the time was light and
yes,
several awake periods. And here's the thing: this monitor, I don't know how accurate it is.
Right.
But what I can say is that it is accurate about the awake periods.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right. It shows, okay, I was up here. Yeah, I was. And then I was awake here from there. Yep, I do remember that. So the part I question is the light and deep sleep portion along with REM.
Gotcha.
But it definitely has the awake time periods and the sleep time periods down pat. So,
Well, for my part, good sir, Yours truly, who lives for cuddles and snuggles, has been banished to the guest room because
Oopsie.
um, I the position in which I need to sleep in order to keep my leg straight and elevated. Uh, the only part about me I'm trying to keep straight, elevated. Sorry, it was just sitting there.
That's good. That's good one. I mean, you tossed that up in the air and knocked it out of the park on your own. It's a cell phone run. Not an own goal, a cell phone run.
um, I I can't because of where the break is, right? It's sort of like right here. I can't sleep with my foot like this because it puts too much pressure on it, and I can't sleep with my foot like this, so it absolutely has to be like this. So I
Mhm.
have a thing rigged in where I just like I've got something on this side, and I just slide my foot in. That means I absolutely have to sleep on my back, and I am normally a side sleeper.
Right.
So apparently 2 nights ago, I was snoring like a freight train, and one night of me snoring like a freight train was all it took. I've been doing 3 years of my sweetie snoring like a freight train.
Well,
Apparently, one night was all it took. So, yes, it seems like for the next 4 weeks. Oh my god. I'm so sad. But yes, my beaver sweetie, fortunately slash unfortunately for me, but fortunately for the world, has to impart knowledge into young minds 3 days a week, and then go to a lab where he plays with chemicals, some of which can go boom. So he needs to be well rested. So,
yeah, we don't want things to go boom.
but I don't get my snuggles.
Well, you don't get to have everything in this life, unfortunately.
I
Sorry,
can't
hate to break it to you.
always get what I want.
Most of us don't.
Oh man.
I wanted to have perfect hair and teeth, and that didn't work out for me.
Mm.
Now I
Originally,
do I do recognize that with enough money, I can get both of those things, but,
originally I wanted to be 6'2" and work the runway.
sachet, shante.
You know, baby. Ah, well. Listen, that's the bad news. The good news is I might actually have a family doctor.
Oh, well, good for you. You haven't had one in a long time, huh?
At least 10 years. Well, I haven't had one since I moved to Kingston, and then I didn't have any for the last few years I was in Ottawa because mine retired, and
Yeah.
my file never got passed over to anybody.
That happened to me with my doctor, and it was funny how I'd go to the clinic. "Who's your family doctor?" I said, "Well, I had one." "Who?" And I tell them his name. They go, "Oh, he retired." I go, "Yeah, I know." "Oh, he didn't get a referral?" "No." I fell through the cracks. He goes,
Yeah,
"Oh, he was referring everybody." "Yeah, well, he missed me."
yeah, same thing with mine. I got a call saying he was retiring and that they would send my file to someone, and I never got a call.
Well, I
And
mean,
then I called a couple of times. I was like, "Who?"
my doctor was 85
Yeah.
when he retired. So, I'm like, "Yeah, no, I wish him well." And he
Oh,
used to bike in from Aylmer every day,
okay.
from Aylmer to his downtown Ottawa office every day, even in the winter. I'm like, "Man, that" I'd go into his office and we'd talk for 20 minutes before he'd even ask me why I was there. So he really set you at ease. Like, he had that old-timey bedside manner,
Right.
but then you'd look up on his wall and it's like, this man has every doctorate known to the human race. Like, he was a surgeon, he was a vascular surgeon. He hadn't been able to do surgery in a very long time because,
Mm.
his eyesight and his hands. But yeah, he was a hell of a guy. I'm gonna guess he's probably since passed away because he'd be about 105 right now.
Oh my. Okay.
So,
Yeah. So yeah, yesterday after, well, my beaver sweetie had noticed it, but a couple of days before. But when we got back from physio, there was just a couple of blocks from where we live. There was one of those signs that has like on a trailer thing that's on the front lawn. It says new walk-in clinic and practice accepting new patients, and it's like, but it opened yesterday. The day before yesterday, sorry. Yes, yesterday, I was saying it opened yesterday. I think so they must be already full up, so we stopped in, it's like, still because I couldn't get there on my own to stand in line for X number of hours if that was that thing, and I
mhm.
walked in and said, "No, yeah, we're still accepting." It seems it was never advertised in the paper or anything. So normally they're advertised in the paper, and you get this big long line, but it's a like Hunger Games thing, but they didn't. So I put in my name and all that kind of stuff. I have to wait for confirmation, all that kind of stuff. But if I do get it, I have a family doctor.
Oh, good stuff.
That'd be so nice. So not all bad today. Not all bad today. And you know, the banishment to the guest room was from my sweetie, but was also my beaver sweetie that told me about the clinic and dropped me off there and waited for me while I registered and all that kind of stuff. So, it kind of evens out. I, I'm going to go with it kind of evens out because I need to cope. All right. Let's get started today, kits and cubs. Uh, Slow-ish news day,
Hmm.
but still some important things happened. So we will take a look at that. Um, First of all, tonight, for those of us who are cheering for Canada's team, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Oilers versus Panthers. It's the finals, baby. Last
Yeah,
time
it's going
went
to
to
be
7.
yeah, I think it'll go to 7 again, and I honestly do believe it will be well, 6 or 7. 6 for
Okay.
sure. I say 6 games for sure, possibly 7, and I do believe Edmonton's going to win this one. I'd be
You
shocked.
feel it.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if they didn't. It would be like something wrong in the universe if they don't.
Okay.
They're a different team this year than they were last year. Last year, they were in the finals. They went 7 games, and remember, they were down 3 games to 1
Right.
and came back to get to 7, which, I mean, that in itself is well, it's not a victory for the team, but you have to see the moral victory in that.
Right.
But it's definitely gonna be an Oilers Stanley Cup final.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Well, you know what? You've been calling pretty much everything.
I've been pretty accurate thus far, you know.
Yeah.
I did think
Except first round.
The Toronto,
Yeah.
Ottawa series was gonna go 7, and when it didn't, I, along with everybody else, was kinda like, What?" Like, it was a shock. And even friends of mine who are diehard Leafs fans going, "No, we really thought it was gonna go 7 as well." And we were
Mm,
nervous. We were nervous.
mm.
So, we'll see what
All right.
happens. We'll see what happens.
And for our young Canadians, the under 16s who are representing Canada at the AmeriCup, yesterday they defeated Brazil 111-73 to have a perfect record. And they face Puerto Rico today, another powerhouse team that just squeaked by Venezuela, just like we did. So it looks like it would be two evenly matched teams, but both of them are tied for top of the pool at the moment. And so this is like the battle for first place in the pool. So we'll be watching that today. It seems that yesterday was Mr. Rerun Polyev's birthday. So I guess we'll say happy birthday to you, sir. Um, Kit Saucy had a really good idea for what could be a great present for dear old Skippy. That suggested that perhaps party members should send Pierre Polyev bushels of apples and barn boards.
Well,
It's because
here, I'll put it
Anna
on the screen for you.
Anna had put out a message asking for people to surprise Pierre by signing an electronic birthday card, and it seems a lot of people did
Yeah, well, the message prompts recipients to provide first and last name and contact information.
as well. Yes,
So in other words, they're data harvesting.
yes, yes. But apparently,
Is there anything that party is capable of that is not underhanded or dirty? Or, I mean, really, you want people to sign his birthday card. Okay. Why are you data mining?
right?
Like, seriously, for his birthday, you're going to turn that, you're an opportunist at every single turn. That is disgusting.
Yep.
Like, look, take a frickin' day off, man.
They never do.
No.
It's like as if the tagline from Glengarry Glen Ross wasn't always be closing, but always be grifting.
Certainly seems like it.
Oh my God. So, anyway, uh, Pierre got a really interesting birthday present. You know how I've been telling you, kids and cubs, that, there's a leadership review coming for Pierre, probably in March, and he was trying, there's some push within the party structure to try to have it happen earlier, like maybe September, right? So while he's still fresh in their minds as a leader, and people don't have time to um, enjoy what the party is like without him there all the time, right? Um, well,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I stated to you, there's a good chance that he might not, especially if there's a spread in the polls. Well, it seems as of May 30th, according to Nanos, the election that was 43 to 41 or something like that, well,
mm,
now shows the Liberals at 42, the Conservatives at 36,
yeah.
the NDP at 11, the Bloc at 7, the Greens at 3, and the PPC at 1. The Conservatives are down
NDP is up.
5% since the election, and the NDP are up 5% since the election.
It says the Liberals are down 2%?
Yeah, so probably they probably had like 43.8 or something like that, and got down to
Okay.
42 or something like that
Yeah.
at the election. So there's already a 6-point gap,
Well, and you see the center left are swinging back to NDP right now because there's no election.
right? Or
A lot of strategic voting in that last
yes,
election.
and a lot of the NDP, maybe in Southern Ontario, whatnot, who decided to vote Conservatives because he was trying to present himself as the union guy who will fight for little people.
Hmm.
Um, so there's already a 6-point spread 1 month after the election.
Wow.
Wonder what that will, if Mark Carney keeps on showing competence the way he's been showing so far, what might that spread be in March? Yeah. Um, I think his party might recognize that he's not a great value proposition, and it's not like there isn't any undercurrent going on. I mean, the party's doing really great at presenting this big face, like he's our guy, and Damien Curb stands up in the House, and oh yeah, he'll be back in no time, and like this, yeah, he'll be back by June 23rd. No, probably won't be a vote before August 4th or 5th at the earliest, and all that kind of stuff. But they're really trying to pump his tires, right, and try to sell to the members. Yeah, don't worry, he'll come back, and he's inevitable. We'll get it next time. All we have to do is keep on doing what we're doing, and you'll see he's on the right track. Well, he's already slipping. Now that's for the parties. For preferred prime minister, which is the first of these numbers I saw yesterday, and then I went back and said, well, let's see if it translates to the party. According to that data for preferred prime minister, we have Mark Carney at 47%, up one since May 23rd, 2025. Polyev at 28%, which is down 6 from May 23rd. So, in the space of about 10 days, 10 days, Polyev has dropped 6% in the esteem of Canadians as the preferred prime minister. Dropping in the polls, dropping in the esteem of Canadians. Happy birthday, Pierre. I know. I know. Petty. And according to the same poll, if you are looking at the most important issues, top of mind of concern, number one, jobs in the economy at 21%. And, well, given that disastrous, allegedly costed platform that he presented in the campaign, well, he kind of tanked himself as being a competent manager of the economy and somebody who's going to create jobs now, did he? And the number two is Trump/US relations at 16%. Well, he's got nothing for us there. He's shown us that. And healthcare at 10%, he's really got nothing for us there because, well, that's a big, bloated, costly social program, and he doesn't believe in that. So the top three issues of concern for Canadians are issues on which the guy is absolutely nowhere. Again,
Well, as evidenced
happy birthday.
evidenced by the
Yeah, I bet you.
current numbers.
I bet you the Crown Royal was flowing at his birthday party last night. Anyway. Oh, yes, and let's not forget that a gentlewoman named Bonnie Critchley, who's an independent candidate, has decided about 6 days ago that she's going to enter the race. Local resident, fifth-generation service member, proud Canadian Army veteran with 22 years of service.
I've got the I've got it right here. Let's read this into the record because I think this is important.
Yep.
She identifies as a centrist,
Mhm.
which hey, I'm down with that.
Yep.
So this is from Bonnie Critchley, running as an independent. It's an open letter to the longest ballot committee. My name is Bonnie Critchley, and I live in Battle River, Crowfoot. I am extremely upset that Monsieur Poliev chose to ignore the results of the 45th general election, refused to move out of Stornoway, the official residence of the leader of the opposition, and instead has removed Mr. Couric from his seat to run in his place. So I stepped up and am planning on running in the upcoming election. Now, with whether Mr. Couric was coerced by threats of having his nomination revoked by the party, or he did so to the goodness of his heart, is not up for me to speculate upon. The fact is that Mr. Couric showed up. He showed up to open and attend events around our 52,000 square kilometer riding. He showed up to present medals. He showed up to answer the questions of constituents. But by the end of June, he'll be gone and a writ of election dropped to trigger a by-election. This is where you are, the longest. This is where you, the longest ballot committee, comes in. Please don't. Just don't. This is our home, our riding. Please do not come here and muddy the waters further. While I am given to understand that your goal is to push for electoral change, this is not the place. Not only does the irony of your immediate abuse of the newest electoral change of removal of cost to get on the ballot further cloud the issue, but you're going to crush any legitimate independents who run. Your actions make it impossible for electors to be able to find anyone who isn't attached to a party. You are further pushing us into a party system. Then there's the current backlash of people refusing to sign nomination forms in case that candidate, in quotes, is a fake out. I don't have a massive team. I don't have backing from millions of people. I have to go door to door within my community and explain to my neighbors that I have nothing to do with you. I have to explain that I am here in my home and I am standing up for myself, my neighbors, and my community against the guy from Ottawa who doesn't give a damn about us. Please do not bury me with your legal election interference. Please sit this one out. Don't show up. Let the people of Battle River Crowfoot fight for their right to be heard in Parliament without getting tripped from the sidelines. This is our home riding. Complete agreement. You know how I feel about this long ballot. Look, yeah, I get that it's legal, but so what? Doesn't make it right.
Yeah. Where did you find that, Mr. Grizzly? Because I've been looking for stuff.
It's Facebook.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And that might be a way to send her an invitation and ask if she would like to come on the show.
Yeah. She's
cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good stuff. Oh, I'm glad you found that. The last little thing that happened yesterday, there's a moment in the House of Commons where Pierre can't sit.
Oh. Right. I don't think I have. Oh, wait. Oh, here I
P. Albas versus PM. Yes.
Yeah, I've got it right here. Hang on, just give me a second.
There was a
just give me a second. Yeah.
tweet
I got the
by
clip.
what?
I've got the clip, the video clip.
There was a tweet by a Mr. David McNaughton, who used to be the former Canadian ambassador to the United States, that sort of went like, it looks like Prime Minister Carney might be getting the hang of this question period thing.
Yeah, this is watch. This is a thing of beauty. Whoops. What the hell happened there? That was bizarre. I don't know what just went on. What the hell's going on? Hang on, let me fix this.
How bizarre.
Something bizarre is happening here with my, I don't know what is going on there. What? Hang on a sec.
You want me to just do it?
Go ahead. I don't know where the hell everything just went. Everything just disappeared on me.
That's okay. I got it right here. Oh, it's our thank you to Jason Pugh. Uh, good, a good account to follow, particularly if you like QP type stuff. He definitely is a good follower of it and brings lots of clips there.
Indeed.
But here we go. Mr. Dan Albas.
Out, but what about a budget? Canadians deserve real fiscal management, not excuses or fact-free talking points. And here's some of the facts. Liberal consultant spending is expected to rise 35% to $26 billion, breaking their promise to cut down on consultants. Fact. Wow. Liberals promised $20 billion in elbows up U.S. tariffs, but later dropped them with no regard to affected Canadian workers or fiscal impacts. Fact. The majority of this chamber voted last night for a spring budget. Fact. On what date would the Liberals face the facts and table a budget for their $500 billion in new spending?
Hey! The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the First Minister's agreed on a plan to build this great country. Stand up to Donald Trump. Fact. That's right. Mr. Speaker, the Government of Canada is imposing tariffs that cause maximum impact on the United States, minimum impact on Canada. Fact. On over $60 billion of U.S. exports to Canada. Fact. Raised over $1.7 billion already. Fact, fact, fact.
The honourable member for Edmonton.
So yeah, there you go. Now you will notice that the facts that Dan Albastronaut brought are things from the estimates that were in Parliament the time before, which need to be approved by June 23rd. So this is not actually his spending, but spending that should have been approved before we went to an election. Right? Like they're demanding a budget right now, but before they get the budget, they want him to be accountable for spending on consultants that he neither ordered nor approved. And how is he supposed to do an evaluation and cut that as he just walks in and prepare the budget in 4 weeks? So they take thing from column A and they take thing from pot B and then they put it together and then they conflate it. Like the estimates are the money that is required to keep the government operating. Right? When Parliament prorogued and then we were going to go into an election and the budget wasn't going to happen around April as it normally does, government needs to keep operating. So
there's not a single.
They spend some money. They approve some money for that.
There's not a single member of the Conservative Party of Canada that has the intellectual equivalency of Mark Carney, let alone the ability to actually shut somebody down for their garbage lies. Yeah. There's nobody. I'm sorry. The man is very successful at what he did for a very long time. He knows how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, well, he's never been a politician before. No, that's good. Isn't that what we always say? We want one of the common people who's never worked. So why are people voting for a 20+ year politician who has never tabled a single piece of legislation that was good for Canadians? The only one he ever did brought his party down. Why would you vote for that? I don't.
We have a situation where the party that allegedly considers itself the best on finance could not produce a legitimate costed platform and had no intention of presenting a budget in the first 100 days, but is demanding a budget, and that cuts already have been performed before the actual budget on estimates, before the actual budget comes out.
As I said before he even ran for leader of the party, that he has more in line with Joe Clark, progressive conservative, than he does a Justin Trudeau Liberal government.
Mhm.
It's as simple as that.
As simple as that.
It really is. And people, actual progressive conservatives, many friends of mine who have, supported and been party members throughout their lives have said, I didn't vote Liberal, but I'm not terribly upset with what's happening. Now, I've had others who always hate the Liberals no matter what. And I'm like, but dude, like the longest ballot committee, look at what the Liberals are doing. And I go, that has nothing to do with them. It has to do with this independent group. I sent him all the information. He goes,
That's probably more NDP and Green.
yeah. And he goes, oh, I said, that happened in a Liberal riding, a traditionally Liberal riding in Toronto in a by-election. They flooded the zone with 89 candidates, I believe it was.
70, I think it was 60 something at that time, and then 70 something the next time, and then 91 in Pierre's, and Lord knows how many there'll be in Battle River Crowfoot.
They want to try and get 200 for that one. I'm like, so you need to understand, this has got nothing. I said, I hate it. Number one, I hate it. I don't like it. I get that it's legal, but I think it's bullshit.
Mhm.
They're abusing the system. Now, let's put everything on the table here. Billionaires and people worth hundreds of millions of dollars abuse the system every day because they can get away with it. I don't like any of that to happen, whether it's grassroots or extremely wealthy people. I don't like to see the system get abused by anyone at any time ever. I know it's always going to happen. I know that because we let it happen. We don't do anything to curb abuse.
Right.
We're responsible for this.
Yep. We go, oh, that's a shame, and then we move on. Yeah.
We have only ourselves to blame to let this continue to happen. Do we have the power to change this? Yeah, we damn well do. But we can't seem to get together and agree on it enough to force our members of parliament and our members of provincial parliament or provincial legislature to get together and make the changes that are necessary.
Yeah. Just
We
pass
just let
the
it
damn
happen.
legislation.
Well, they all screamed about how, Mark Carney, when he was working for Brookfield, moved everything offshore to save taxes. I'm like, yeah, but you guys are the ones who created that situation under Stephen Harper.
Yeah.
So if you don't like it, change it back.
Yeah, and bragged about it, how it would be great for business and, like, add to the
He
economy
took
and attract
advantage of it.
international business into Canada and attract all that foreign investment.
And I hate it. I hated it from the get-go. I hate it then. I hate it now.
Yeah.
Because it's taking away tax revenue that we desperately need in this country to take care of our own people.
But you're right, Mr. Grizzly. If they created the system, then don't get mad when people use it.
You built it. You can't get mad when it's used, when the system you built is used by your opponent, because they're smart enough to know how to do it.
As you intended it to be used.
I don't like it. I hate it. I don't want it there. But I can't get mad at somebody for doing something that is perfectly legal. I don't like it. I wish it wasn't there. I want us to change it. But you are a hypocrite if you say, I can't believe he did this thing that we built and set up for him to do. Because that is hypocrisy of the highest order.
So we have a situation, this longest ballot thing is something that we like to call lawful but awful.
Yes.
Right? And I'd never thought of it from the perspective that Ms. Critchley has brought it. But yes, it does make it harder for actual genuine independent candidates to run because it's like, we're not them. It's sort of like us, right? True North, Eager Beaver. And it says, oh, well, we don't want to. No, we're the other True North.
We're the other one.
We're
the other one.
To keep on specifying. It's like, we have no affiliation with.
I've seen that where I've put up big stickers on poles around town and people just go, I can't believe it, and rip it down. And I go, maybe if you scan the QR code, you could figure something out. It says democracy is something you do right along the bottom, and there's a QR code. You can actually investigate who it is instead of immediately jumping to conclusions.
Yeah.
But
that requires work.
The outrage factory works on both sides of the aisle.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Remember, researching it requires work.
Yeah. Yes,
There's
it takes
cost.
this much work. It takes this much work. QR code. Oh, that's not what I thought it was. There, that's the work. It's done. That's all it took.
Yep.
God forbid you actually use that supercomputer in your pocket to do something creative and constructive with.
Oh man, 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 oh man.
It's when somebody is online and they're yelling at me about something they clearly don't know a damn thing about, and my response is, "You're already online.
Right.
Google exists. Here, I did the work for you," and send them several links to disprove their theory, whatever. And of course, that's usually most of the time you just get screamed at. Yeah, fuck you, you libtard snowflake. Blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not the one who's upset at the fact that I just proved you to be wrong.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not
You're
the one who
upset
walked
and screaming at me because I gave you true facts. Facts don't care about your feelings. Isn't that
Yeah.
what you guys say to us all the time?
It's like, no, they say fuck your feelings because they're
Oh,
not about the facts. Remember?
right. Well,
All right.
isn't that something feelings like to do anyway?
Yeah.
That's an activity the feelings normally get you into.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Mom.
No worries. I just saw a comment that was unkind.
Oh.
So anyway, and I just kind of rolled my eyes.
Oh, okay.
All right. So what else? Today, of course, is the day that the 50% tariffs. So I guess he's off Taco Tuesday by one day. But yes, Donald Trump a couple of days ago. It's my great honor to raise the tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25 to 50% effective Wednesday, June 4th. I don't understand how it would be an honor, but okay. Our steel and aluminum industries are coming back like never before. No, not really. This will be another big jolt of great news for our wonderful steel and aluminum workers. Make America great, GRATE, I would say, again. So this is clearly a case of Taco getting under his skin. He has to look strong. So once again, he aims for his favorite punching bag, Canada, because so long as he keeps on showing the world that he's willing to do this to a friend, everybody else will keep in line. He believes nobody's keeping in line. Nigeria basically told Trump to go F himself the other day.
Well,
Nigeria. Okay.
Yeah. The whole world is telling them to do that. And here's the funny one. Somebody was breaking. Tariffs brought in $22 billion in the last quarter, the first quarter of the year. $22 billion. That's amazing. And I go, that's your money, you chowderhead. And all the people coming in going, yeah, we paid for that. Tariffs brought in money. Yeah, it did. That we paid for. It's not coming from foreign countries. We pay the tariffs. What about this do you not understand? And then there was a grok thing that explained how the tariffs work.
Just
Again, you're online.
Right.
It takes, 3 seconds of, hey, Google, how do tariffs work?
I'm not disagreeing with you in any way. My friend.
We thought access to the world's information would make people smarter.
No,
It didn't.
it didn't.
It did the exact opposite. It made us dumber and more ignorant.
Well, the access to information made people smarter, but the problem is that access to information also gave made everybody in the world a publisher and
Yes.
gave access to people who, don't moderate their content or don't care to moderate their content or don't to be factual, direct access into everyone's homes as well, right? Upside downside. The same technology that made it such that I can, I could talk to my pen pal in Japan about my favorite band is the same technology that allows ISIS to do its thing. Right? It's the technology in itself is neutral. It's who's using it and for what ends and what purposes, unfortunately. So we got Taco. This is something he's going to have to extricate himself out of eventually because, 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum. That's not going to work for anybody, particularly the defense industry in the United States. So he's going to have to climb back down on this at some point, which is really weird because he's doing this to prove that Taco is not real. Yes, and he's going to have to climb down for this. And he's also backed down on some tariffs with China in the meantime, between the time he announced that these 50% was coming and the time that it came on. So he's tackling on some things, adding other things. People are going to cry. He's going to back down. So I'm not sure how he thinks that this bolsters his reputation as not being a taco. Essentially, it's just going to be double taco
Well,
at some point.
this just in. New U.S. tariffs force Canada to use excess steel and aluminium in construction of a 200-foot Mecca Gosling.
Mecca Gosling.
It's from the Beaverton.
Oh my God.
Get a kick out of that one.
But here's the thing. So long as this man is trying to kill our auto industry, and you got like the guy who puts the ass in ambassador saying, oh, there is ways for us to work together. No, your boss is literally on record saying, we don't need anything you've got. We don't want cars from Canada. Mark Carney was sitting next to him as Trump was saying, we don't want your cars.
Yeah.
We can do them ourselves. So don't come and tell us, Mr. Hoekstra, that there's still a path. Your boss is not saying the same thing, and you've already burned your bridge with us by saying that 51st state was over when we knew it wasn't, and by telling us to move on, right?
And let's not forget
We're not listening to you anymore.
The Auto Pact and how many times a single part moves back and forth across two borders, right?
Yeah.
Two borders. Mexico, Canada, USA. It gets...
Yeah, I know. So there was a decision, as we mentioned a couple shows ago, by the Court of International Trade, which they brought to a higher appeal, and it's been stayed for the moment. But that decision, even though it's there, still does make it a little more difficult for the United States to do what it wants, because now, because he wants to bring that to the Supreme Court, none of the nations with whom he wants a deal done quickly is particularly inclined to sign one quickly. I mean, who's going to want to make huge, big concessions if the Supreme Court might decide in a few months that these tariffs are not okay? It's like, so every nation in the world now has, oh, well, yes, I understand that you wanted this deal quickly, but I mean, since it's in court, we should probably wait for the decision. I mean, why would I sign it? Why would I sign a document that says in perpetuity I'm going to give up 15% market share for cheeses or auto parts or defense contract if the court is going to rule in 3 months that I don't have to? He's literally working against himself now. He wants deals quickly, and he just created a pretext for everybody to drag their heels. Yeah. So last year, the United States imported about $7 billion of steel from Canada. I'm not sure if they have the capacity to generate that $7 billion worth of steel themselves. But if they can't, well, now they have to pay $10.5 billion at least. Way to go. According to NPR, the price of steel products had already increased about 16% since IQ-47 first took office and imposed his first round of tariffs. Is going to add to that. Interesting, because in the first quarter, the United States economy contracted 0.2%. So they're already halfway to an official recession. Meanwhile, in Canada, our economy grew by 0.5 in March for a total increase of 2.2% in the first quarter.
Well,
another birthday present for Pierre Poilievre.
Are there tariffs on paper as well? Paper products, do you know?
I don't know on that specifically.
Well,
I mean, there's the general overall tariffs, but I
Yeah.
mean, if the paper products are traded within the CUSMA, stuff like this, I'm guessing not,
Well, I would think so, because
unless they
according to
consider it a
this,
softwood lumber product.
this is toilet paper in Canada. Exports 97 out of 1,206.
Yes.
March 24 to February 25. Top destination, United States. They imported $1.22 billion worth of Canadian toilet paper.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I looked into this before too. We import a big amount from them too.
Oh, I've no doubt.
It's not like we supply just for ourselves like this.
No.
If we can sell it for more than we make it, we won't use it ourselves. We'll export it, and then we'll import stuff that's at a better price, right?
Well, yeah.
That
If
type
I
of
go
stuff.
back to that graphic, or that, it's a little hard to read because of the background. But if you look right here, it says imports, right? Imports 1.04 billion. So we're importing a lot of product too. We exported 1.22 billion and imported 1.4 billion. So we've got a net positive on that. But you know,
Kit PNC Bio asks here in the chat, does anyone actually know what the USMCA dispute resolution mechanism is? I don't know what it is specifically, but I know that it's a tripartite dispute mechanism, right? That it has all three. And that's the thing that the United States hates the most about the agreement, because every single one of their trade deals is a bilateral. So if there's a dispute, it's the United States versus the other country. And since the United States is bigger, they almost always win. Because they really don't like the fact that it's a three and that there can be a 2 against 1 every now and then. So that's about the extent that I know about the dispute resolution mechanism. And they do it. But yes, it is the United States hates it, and Trump in particular, because it doesn't allow him to assert his domination as much as he would like to.
Wasn't he part of the agreement?
Well, but that carried over from NAFTA, right?
Yes.
That's been there, and since even before, when it was like we were talking about free trade in Americas and all that kind of stuff.
No, but what I mean is that was still part of the new agreement. That
yes, because Canada and Mexico let that go the first time around,
and he signed off on this,
saying that was the best one ever.
Yeah, best deal, greatest deal ever in history. And
but they hate
4 years later, he's screaming that it's the worst deal in history. But you signed it.
Yeah, but they hate the dispute mechanism. They've always hated it, almost like from the second NAFTA was signed, like pre-Trump. It's like, why the hell did we do this? It's like,
because it was necessary.
You wanted the deal.
Yeah.
Because you wanted the deal. And that was a condition of the deal.
From both Canada and Mexico. It was like, no, it's this or nothing.
Right. Because we've dealt with you one-on-one before. We know what you're like.
Well, I mean, there's still the softwood lumber.
Right.
We'll never
see
that money.
Exactly.
It's never going to happen.
So this is going on. Interestingly enough, and this one you don't have to show, Mr. Grizzly. But if you're looking at the markets, you would think, well, gee, steel and aluminum tariffs doubling, that's going to send the stock market spiraling. Well, Asia Pacific stock markets overnight, everything is up from 0.32% in India all the way up to 2.66% in South Korea. Where there's a lot of turmoil going on, by the way, if you have been following the news. I think they've gone through like 5 presidents in the last couple of months, and now they finally got a new one. It was a very, very tight vote, and apparently he had to deliver his acceptance speech from behind protective glass. The people actually he's got 2 bodyguards on each side that actually have like a briefcase that's made of material that can be opened up and deployed as a shield like this that reflects bullets. Apparently he had been stabbed in the neck at one point earlier on. So South Korea, there's an About That by Andrew Chang on YouTube. Take a look at it, because South Korea is showing right now what's going on in South Korea is where the US is going and where we could go if, because over there's absolutely no trust from the people in institutions, in police, and in nothing. And the people are just rising up.
It's a matter of time before it happens south of our border.
Yeah, it's extremely explosive and kinetic right now in South Korea.
Well, and there's a movement to do the same thing here in Canada, except the difference here is what the movement here in Canada is by extremists on the right side of the ledger. But they're so far on the right side of the ledger that people I've known who are pretty right-leaning have gone, whoa.
Yeah, it's way too much. That's too much for us.
Come on, settle down here now. You're trying to take away rights from people, and we don't want that.
Yeah. So Asia Pacific is yawning. Europe, the stock market in Italy is down 0.24%, but everything is up. Else is up from 0.22 to 0.72%. And if we look at the Americas for the projected open, the Dow is expected to open slightly up, the S&P slightly up, and the Nasdaq slightly up. So 25 to 50% tariffs. I'm coming for you, world. And the world goes,
yeah. So if you're looking to if you're looking to organize a new set of individuals to block and report on Twitter, I'm going to put a Twitter link in the chat here to a post from Air Canada. And the Air Canada Post says our first
yes.
all-US LGBTQIA+ flight was a heartfelt celebration reflecting our unwavering commitment to inclusivity and equality in the air and on the ground. And then you look at the replies to that tweet. And these are all of the worst people. And I mean it. And I don't care who I offend on this. If you are hating on Air Canada for doing the right thing, you're being an asshole. There's a million reasons to hate Air Canada. This ain't it.
Yeah.
This ain't it.
Yeah, I saw a tweet that's sort of like the three things that I care about when I get a flight. What I don't care about is like the sex lives of the passengers. It's like, say, if you hear the word gay and all you can think about is what we do in bed, that's a you problem.
Well, and Rachel Gilmore tweeted, said, Jesus Christ, the replies to this. When even a bland corporate appeal for inclusion sparks so much hate, we have a serious sickness in our society.
We do.
Other people being happy, living authentically, and loving who they love is not a threat to you. And then her follow-up tweet to that is like, hey, you know what? Honestly, the idea, based on the replies, that this will lead to fewer bigots booking tickets with Air Canada makes me feel much more safe and excited about flying on those planes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, the other day we were talking about them being triggered by everyone is welcome here sign. Well, I'm not. Well, yeah, because you're not welcoming of the people in there. Again, if you're going to go in somebody else's spaces and then just proceed to piss on the carpets, do not be surprised when they ask you to leave. Like, come on. So, yeah. You're right. Mr. Goes like the worst people like this. Yeah,
The
it's a great
worst
way to
people.
populate a block list.
Well, it's like, really, how is that a threat to you? If you feel threatened by that, seek psychological therapy immediately.
Right.
Because there's a boogeyman around every corner, behind every book, behind every telephone pole. There's a boogeyman ready to jump out and get you. If you are so frightened of somebody else's sexuality that you feel the need to post a hateful comment, seek help.
Yeah.
Because you are wired incorrectly.
I don't know what
I don't care who I fucking offend on this. I mean this. If you are so filled with hate and rage about somebody else's personal, private life and how they live it, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. I mean, they're tweeting about this as if like the cabin crew would be like performing fellatio on each other in the aisles, right? It's like that's not what's going on, man.
They have a job to do, for Christ's sake. It's like these assholes who gone about DEI is why these planes are crashing. No, they're crashing because you fired people, you idiot. DEI means somebody else gets an opportunity that they would not normally get. Number one. Number two, they have to be fully qualified. They go through the same training and testing that everybody else does.
Okay. Yep.
Sorry, I got to get a coffee. I got to calm down. I'm pissed.
Yep. No worries.
Right.
No worries. Meanwhile, while this tariff stuff is happening, according to the Financial Post, Canadian dollar pushes through 73 cents US on more tariff turmoil and possible Bank of Canada hold. Yeah. Canadian dollar pushed past 73 cents US on Monday on the rising chances of the Bank of Canada holding interest rates this week. That announcement is going to come today as rising tariff risks weaken the greenback. The loonie broke through 73 cents for the first time since October 2024, continuing ongoing reversal of fortune against its United States counterpart. Everybody was saying that the dollar was just going to fall and plummet with all of this. The Canadian dollar is now up 6% from almost 10-year closing low of 68.8 cents US on January 31st. And as we mentioned, the United States is halfway through an official recession with a 0.2% drop in the first quarter, whereas Canada got a 0.5% increase in the month of March for a total of a 2.2 increase in GDP in the first quarter. We are literally going in different directions now. Now, of course, the first quarter doesn't include the full impact of what's been going on since Liberation Day and all kind of stuff, but there were some tariffs and stuff already in place. So our economy, we seem to be weathering this relatively well, at least for the first quarter. We'll see what happens for the rest. But yeah, um, really not sure what the end game here is for the United States, but so far for Canada, where Canada's concerned, we are just continuing on our merry way. And the other thing that's interesting is that this whole election campaign in the lead up was the Conservatives telling us how the Liberals were just absolutely destroying and decimating the economy. And meanwhile, well, we were on our way to a 2.2% first quarter jump in GDP while the US was declining. It's almost like the Conservatives are not good at math or the economy or numbers or budgeting or costing or planning or where was I? Oh man. There has been some aftermath, of course, from the meeting with the prime minister and the first premiers. I shouldn't say aftermath. Well, I guess aftermath, but in the most innocuous way, not like there's something terrible happening. Denouement, more like. Uh, so, for clarity's sake here, when they've agreed to 5 conditions that need to be laid out for projects to be in the national interest. 1, they have to strengthen Canada's autonomy, resilience, and security. 2, offer undeniable benefits to Canada and support economic growth. 3, have a high likelihood of successful execution. 4, are a high priority for Indigenous leaders, right there in the 5 basic conditions. And 5, have clean growth potential, such as the use of clean technologies and sustainable practices. And then there are 5 concepts and categories, even though no specific projects have been greenlit. But these are the type of 5 basic concepts and categories that have been singled out: the Western and Arctic Economic Corridor, the Eastern Energy Partnership, and for a lot of people who are thinking about something that was called the something loop, the Eastern Loop, I think maybe it was a few years ago. It's very similar on that. It builds on that. The Critical Minerals Pathway, the next age of nuclear, and the infrastructure that would be required for trade diversification, which includes rails, ports, and roads. So while there isn't, like, it's this project, because you've got 14 jurisdictions to agree on the 5 conditions that need to be present for a project to be deemed of national interest, and then the 5 sort of big, sort of overall economic goals or concepts that we're trying to build here
Mm.
in order to increase our productivity and diversify our trade.
This is,
That's a huge agreement already.
mhm.
Right? Devil's going to be in the details of how we hammer that out. But when's the last time we've got 14 governments to agree on anything in this
Never
country?
that I can remember. This has got to be a first. I want to apologize for getting so angry, first off, and I had
No,
to
no,
make
no
a
need.
podcast. That's why it took me so long. But I want to address the comment here from PNC Bio. Um, I understand you're angrily ranting about someone else having hate and rage is a bit hard to process. Fair point. Uh, there's more to it than that, but I can't fully discuss everything. Some things I can't discuss completely openly in this forum. But there's more to it than that, and that's why I'm angry. And that's what I have to leave it at. And I apologize again for getting so angry. But it's when I see injustice, when I see people supporting injustice, when I see people screaming about how something that does not have any effect on them gets so angry about it, it pisses me off.
Mhm.
And remember, I'm in a position to say and do something about it. Not because of this show, but because I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum. I'm the cishet white 6-foot male.
Mhm. To be totally honest, while I understand the intent of the comment, I don't find it particularly helpful.
Hmm. Hmm.
People feel how they feel.
And you're allowed to feel how you feel. Yeah, I got a little bent. That's fine. The thing you need to understand, and there's more to it than that.
Mm.
There's a lot more to it than that.
Yes.
And again, I said, I don't care who I piss off. I was having a Les Grossman moment.
Hmm.
Remember Les Grossman, the Tom Cruise character from...
Mhm. Yep. I hear you. I hear you.
Take 2 steps back. I'm not going to say it.
Okay. So, if we have the clip ready, Mr. Grizzly, there's a couple of things that happened. There was some interviews and some discussions and whatnot, and there were some very interesting points brought up. Now, the first thing people are going to wonder is, of course, how's the pundit class going to react? Because there's a lot of people that won't watch the whole press conference and won't watch that thing. They'll just rely on who they trust in the media to tell them. So here in this clip, we have Rob Russo and we have Lisa Raitt, former Conservative MP and cabinet minister, saying, giving their initial impressions. And you have to understand, like, throughout the broadcasts that were happening, the pre-meeting and post-meeting and all throughout that day, it really started with, it's like, we're going to come out of this and we're going to have a list of projects and all that kind of stuff. Well, what if we don't get that? And because, it's going to be a terrible disappointment, which was an unrealistic expectation, really. And so when we came out with it, saying that we've got general concepts and categories of places where we can invest, and these are conditions. Well, I really thought that the initial reaction is that there'd be somebody waiting there to go, "Oh my God, see, they failed." And considering that they were setting the bar initially as being like, we have to have a list of projects that are going to be ready to go, and we'll have shovels in the ground in July or something, or in June. Yeah, that's probably not the standard. And that wasn't probably very realistic to start with. So I was expecting the big drama, especially since we showed you in the press conference, right? A lot of the questions from the journalists, even though some were perfectly legitimate, they were looking for the drama.
They were looking for the drama.
Is Danielle going to lose her mind? Scott and Danielle, you really can't be as enthusiastic about this as the prime minister is, can you? And right, and all that kind of stuff, and that group maintained a certain unity. So let's see if, despite that unity, the pundit class was going to poo-poo on the day for not meeting expectations or not.
Rob, you were talking before I interrupted you to go to that. I mean, where do you think they landed in terms of offering certainty and encouragement to industry that it's worth the time and the effort and the money to try to get a project through?
At the risk of a premature political evaluation, I would say that this was a success, and not really where a lot of us saw it going. But here are the words that I heard come out of the Prime Minister's mouth. Yes to an oil pipeline to Tidewater. Real potential there. And then I heard it described as one that needs to be decarbonized. And I heard Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, who has lowered the threshold for a referendum on secession from Alberta if that could happen, if some of her demands weren't met, call this a grand bargain and outline what the grand bargain looks like. In effect, a pipeline to Tidewater in exchange for decarbonized oil, either through carbon capture and storage or through other things. That's an achievement. I think that's a real achievement. And it's not a specific pipeline, but now they have something that they're going to go to the business community with, the investment community. As Danielle Smith said, if they can't get the business community interested in this, then it's their failure. I would call this a success, a successful first step anyway.
Okay. Yes, decarbonized oil means essentially zero emissions at the production end. Downstream emissions, obviously a very different thing. This would be the upstream thing. I want to try to get everybody in at least once because some premiers and stuff are going to start coming here to the set. So Lisa, what's your takeaway from what we just heard there? A happy First Minister's meeting, which is not what we always see, but what's your top level takeaway?
Well, I'm happy as a Canadian. I loved seeing the unanimity up there. I was really happy to hear from Premier Smith refer to the grand bargain. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I'm all positive on it. Let's hope that they keep up this enthusiasm and positivity as they go through the more difficult parts of execution. I specifically think that the combination of Pathways project and a pipeline is extremely attractive. And that's where you're going to see whether or not industry is coming to the table, because the cost associated with decarbonizing is very significant, but it does need, as Premier Smith said, the market on the other side. So if you're allowed to sell 1 million barrels of oil, then suddenly the
Did hell freeze over? I'm
Right?
I'm
Yeah. Yeah. I had the same reaction. I was like, what?
what just happened?
I know. I was surprised too. Now, they had an opportunity to have an interview with Danielle Smith, where you can see, okay, first of all, the entire body language throughout the interview is really weird. And just in this segment, I mean, look at where she's looking, look at, the ways that she moves her eyes. This is, for me, this is a weird interaction.
Is she glitching?
I don't know, but this is the interview is longer. This is just one segment of it, but this makes it very clear that Danielle is, I think the way David Cochrane described it, cautiously pessimistic, and that she does still intend to play some of the cards that she has later. She's sort of cornered for now, but she still intends to play the cards. So let's take a look at here.
Tied this to national unity, though, right? And with what is, you've talked about a process that could lead very well to a referendum in your province next year. In terms of like satisfying some of those concerns, the bigger concerns that could fuel this separatist sentiment amongst a certain part of your population, does this deal with it a bit?
It's necessary but not sufficient. I mean, the encouraging words are one thing, the commitment to looking at these projects, the commitment from the Prime Minister to being an energy superpower and wanting to get that pipeline built are all very positive. But I think we will know once we see the legislation that comes out and once we see how quickly he's able to move on making some of the changes that we need. That is what I'm going to gauge. I tried for 2.5 years to get to some level of accommodation with the former Prime Minister. I feel like we're already further ahead than I was in those 2.5 years. So I want to be optimistic about it, but I'll be frank, there is still some more work to do. Because if we don't see either a major repeal or rewrite of those 9 terrible laws, it isn't going to do enough to change the environment to encourage private sector investment. So it has to be both.
But, as a final point, I mean, I don't know if they're going to repeal their legislative agenda. 8.5 million people voted for the Liberals knowing this was what was in their policy book and the laws of the land. And there is a big constituency in Canada who want these sort of environmental measures. But the flexibility that was offered, at least conceptually, in your private meeting with the Prime Minister, as I understand it, and, it's certainly in the public comments today, I mean, does that not offer you a way to navigate some of the challenges that exist in the existing laws?
I interpret the election results a bit differently than that. I think that the Liberals were facing wipeout because of the terrible policies that they put in place, because of the pushback that they got on their green agenda, and the fact that the very first action the Prime Minister took was to repeal the carbon tax demonstrates that they have gone too far. So the question, I don't think he had any time to repeal those laws because he never got into the Parliament. Now there is an opportunity for him to have that discussion.
But did he indicate to you he intends to do that? It doesn't seem like it in my conversations with his officials.
I can tell you there's no way to have a bitumen pipeline going to the Northwest Coast without repealing the tanker ban in some way. Like, they're mutually exclusive. And so the fact that he mentioned that a couple of times suggests to me that there will be some kind of accommodation. I don't know what that looks like yet, but we're going to work with them in a spirit of goodwill to try to get there. I think the fact that you saw all of the premiers today sign off on a communique that involved conventional fuels, oil and gas, pipelines mentioned specifically, right. I think that's a real
So you will notice again, if you were watching her, the couple times that she smacked a smile or seemed amused to herself is one when she was slagging Trudeau and when she was talking about, well, it's still not going to happen without the tanker ban. So I still got this in my back pocket. Yeah, but the tanker capacity doesn't really become relevant until something's built and something's being shipped there now, does it?
Mhm.
Which might take a couple of years, Danielle. So you will also notice in that interview that who's she talking to?
I don't
She's
know.
not looking at the camera. She's not looking at the host half the time. She's looking down. She's looking away every now and then when she's like making a point. She turns her eyes sideways and looks at the host. She's even seated diagonally, so she's not like side by the host like this, so she could like turn her head or facing the camera. I,
I don't know
and
what's
she
going on.
definitely does not look happy
Well,
for someone who's
I think
encouraged.
well, I'll tell you why she's not looking happy right now, because of what is going on in the province and the investigation that's taking place into the Tylenol scandal, amongst other things, and how she might find herself in the Grey Bar Hotel at some point,
Mhm.
or cabinet members anyway.
And now she has 2 new problems on her hand, of course, because given that, she said in the press conference, well, that it would probably be up to the provinces and whatnot to find the proponents for these projects.
Mhm.
Yes, and that she really doesn't want it to have to be a project that the federal government or the provincial government has to fund, or else she would consider it a failure. Um, she's got a separation push going on.
Yeah, yeah. That
That's not
she's
a stable financial climate.
and she's not pushing back on that either. She's kind of supporting it in a very strange way.
Yes. So I don't understand how it is that she is going to find a proponent to invest in that pipeline that the prime minister is open to, because if this push keeps on, it's almost like the Golden Dome thing where the prime minister said, "Yeah, we're willing to consider that," because he probably knows it's going to fall under its own weight.
Mhm.
So, oh yeah, okay. The pipeline is the litmus test for whether or not there's national unity. It has to there's all these other projects like this, but there has to be an oil pipeline or else, like, okay. Well, he just like said, okay, boo boo kitty pipeline. I'm okay with it. Find a proponent, make it happen.
Well, the question is, let's say Alberta was to separate. So first off, how big would the Alberta territory be? Like Red Deer? Oh no, wait,
Nope.
that's on treaty lands. Yeah. Well, no, that's a provincial park. No, that's a national park. Yeah. So there's no way for them to do it, to separate. But let's say for argument's sake, let's just say, what if, who am I doing here? What if,
Oh, just off the top of my head, we did something that I've been planning for the last 6 months. What if?
what if they were to separate and the area would be about the size of Red Deer and treaty, whatever treaty land that is on, I don't know which one, said, okay, tell you what, you get that space. I'm just using Red Deer as an example. Okay. So maybe it's Tabor. I'm not
Drumheller,
picking
who
on
knows?
anybody. I'm not picking on anybody. Okay. Understand that. Let's say it was that. It's like, okay, so you don't have any oil anymore because that's all on treaty lands too.
Yeah, pretty much.
So then the treaty members decide, yeah, let's build a pipeline. Treaty 6 to Treaty 8, no problem. You guys good with that? Yeah, and we can go, yeah, okay, let's do that.
So it's
Then what are
almost
you going to do?
yeah. So it's almost like, and it's excuse the crude language, but Mark Carney grabbed the ball, took it, tossed it back to her, and said, "Okay, sure. Now go unfuck yourself."
We're having an angry Les Grossman day.
I'm just
2 steps back.
I don't, man.
Sorry, I saw the clip yesterday on something and it made me laugh, so it's been in my head ever since because it's Tom Cruise's best role ever.
So, however it is that she's gonna manage that, clearly the ball is in her court now, right? But this is clearly not going to be on the first list of projects that are going to be approved to go and whatnot, because there's tons of preparatory work, and she might not even be premier anymore by the time that happens with everything
Yes.
else that's going on. But, hey, He said yes. He's talking about energy superpower that includes conventional. So he's saying all the right words, but and the reason I'm making this point is because there's the whole group on the other side. Oh my God, I can't believe he's selling us out. He said that he was like pro-environment, whatnot, and now he wants to approve another pipeline. And oh my God, he's making it happen. It's like, did he really? Did he really? Or is this like an okay, like the okay for the Golden Dome? Yeah, we'll consider it. Sure, we're open to that. Sure. If you
What
could
is
make
this
it happen.
fascination with gold? Has to be the Golden Dome.
I know.
Israel called it the Iron Dome.
I know.
Golden Dome?
I know. I know. He needed a second one. He's already got one on his head. That he pays a lot for, apparently. So then there were
Money
more.
not well spent.
There were more interviews. Tim Houston was in there like this, and he was talking about particularly wind power. How it was, Nova Scotia has the capacity to generate about 50 megawatts, and they're only using a very small amount of that, and that could be added to the grid, and that some of these projects would include the lines of transmission that would be required in order for their wind power to be able to be exported to places where they are not, when they don't need it, right?
Well, they keep trying to build tidal power in the Bay of Fundy by putting in
but the tides are too strong.
They just keep destroying them.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Somebody said, won't that damage fish? It's like, no, as it turns out, a lot of fish are out to sea when the tide comes in because they seem to understand we're going to get swept up.
Yeah.
Or so I've been told. Maybe I'm not a marine biologist, so don't quote me, but this is what I've been told. Maybe I could use the Googler and look that shit up, but I don't have time at the moment. Either way, every time they put a new hydro prop or hydro turbine in the Bay of Fundy, it does not last long at all. The tides are that's Mother Earth going, hey, look, you're only going to harness me if I allow you to.
Right, pretty much. And then they had Susan Holt come on. And we got 2 clips with her because one of those 5 concepts and categories was the Eastern Energy Partnership. So first, we have her talking a little bit about this. And notice the difference in demeanor, in body language, and everything between Susan Holt and Danielle Smith.
Well, I think, and this is just my speculation, because Danielle Smith is under a microscope for a lot of stuff right now. I think she is, because she's media trained, she's doing her best to keep a lid on her anger, hatred, and aggression right now. I mean, this is a woman who lobbied for the tobacco industry and saying smoking wasn't that bad. So
Right.
In making Canada's economy the strongest in the G7.
So you've spelled out sort of the 5 kind of principles behind what you need to hit to qualify as one of these nation-building projects. They gave some example of the things that would qualify. Next stage of nuclear matters to you. Trade diversification, infrastructure definitely matters to you. But the Eastern Energy Partnership, we're just talking to your neighbor, Tim Houston, about wind power and transmission build out, and what does that look like for New Brunswick if that project is one of the ones that goes ahead?
Well, New Brunswick's in the center of that one because Nova Scotia is looking to get tied in to New Brunswick. PEI needs new cabling to New Brunswick. We're going to connect into Quebec and strengthen our ties to the U.S. and then Newfoundland's going to come in as well. So we're building the kind of resilient integrated grid that is going to help drive reliability and affordability for all Atlantic Canadians, and it's going to help us export power. So key with the Eastern Energy Partnership is there's 3 components to it. The first one's the transmission. So it's important that we get that right. The next piece is generation. So you heard Tim talk about the wind opportunity. Certainly New Brunswick's been successfully developing wind onshore for some time, and we have an opportunity for new nuclear that also pairs with the next stage nuclear opportunity the Prime Minister talked about. And then there's energy infrastructure that we're also looking to have as part of the partnership that's going to connect us to Quebec in new ways, and it's going to allow us to build industry who will know they have access to reliable, competitively priced power.
I'm old enough to remember, though, when the Atlantic Loop was going to do all of these things, and the Canadian Infrastructure Bank was going to be involved. This, with the addition of the offshore wind from Nova Scotia, feels a lot like that project that failed to go ahead for a bunch of reasons. So why is it now suddenly a nation-building project of national interest?
Well, they're very similar. And actually, one of the reasons why I think it works well now is a lot of the pre-work had been done. So some of the investigation of where interties could happen and how it could get built out has already been done. And certainly the Prime Minister is keen to see things move fast. I'm keen to see things move fast. So we could build off the work on Atlantic Loop. It's slightly different. The connection points are different coming from Newfoundland through Quebec.
The concept, though, seems very similar.
The concept is similar, but then there's the key piece of generation. Like we're talking about how do we get the new wind from PEI in, how do we get new nuclear from New Brunswick in, how do we build the kind of stabilized environment that gives us good firm power rates and lets us meet the US's needs as well.
So the infrastructure for trade diversification, you talked about the Port of St. John, excuse me, old habits as a Newfoundlander.
Always a Newfoundland.
I know, but one of the most trade exposed cities in Canada, as we learned throughout the tour, like 92%, I think, of exports go to the U.S. Tangibly, what does something like that look like for the Port of St. John? Is it to increase shipping capacity to target Europe? Like, what are we talking about there in terms of what you would like to see for that city?
Well, we were really excited to see the export diversification infrastructure in, because that's exactly where the project that we submitted for the Port of St. John and the St. John Trade Corridor fits. So it's Sims Corner. It's a new rail piece. It's a doubling of rail lines. It's supporting an area where there's erosion at Bayside. It's allowing the port to handle the growth that it's already experiencing, because the containers are coming in exponential numbers. We've now added wharf-side cold storage, which means that we're going to be able to take New Brunswick food to the world as fresh as possible. And so there's about a $295 million project there to ensure that the port, which already sends goods like potash to Saskatchewan, goods to Vancouver from the port, it makes sure that that linkage is reliable and is moving quickly and isn't the bottleneck that it is today. So
look, it was very clear there was a difference.
Potash to Saskatchewan? That's an eye-opener.
Yeah.
She said sends potash to Saskatchewan. Isn't Saskatchewan the largest potash producer on Earth?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe she meant it the other way. Ships it from the potash from Saskatchewan.
No, she
ships
said
it out
exports
east.
too.
No, I know.
Yeah, maybe that was a mistake. I don't know, because that would be. It's like
I don't know New Brunswick as being a potash center.
Hey, Inuvik, you need some more snow? We're going to ship some to you. So this is why I'm just curious.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem, it doesn't add up to. It could be a slip of the tongue. It happens. We're not perfect, but once again, well done, Premier Holt. Well done. And again, like you said, notice the difference in the body language and the demeanor and the overall exuberance and joy about.
And engaging with the host. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like literally there in the moment, paying attention, doing the things, right? Just wow.
Yeah. So like two totally different demeanors, right? And clearly she's well connected with her three other provincial partners in the Atlantic region.
They're all talking about it. Let's work together to make things better for everybody.
Right. And all of that Atlantic loop, like this, or now Eastern Energy Pathway, will link in, of course, with everything that's going on up in Churchill Falls and Gull Island and all of those things, because if they can link that across somehow, right? So
this is according to Saucy Sea, which New Brunswick has a massive supply of potash too.
There are big.
I didn't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So there we go. We're learning. So
thank you.
So it could be a situation where New Brunswick produces it and can ship it, and it's cheaper for Saskatchewan to use New Brunswick potash and to sell their own potash on the international market.
Who knows? I don't know how it works, but either way, I didn't know that. Thank you. See, we learned something today.
Exactly.
And again, I know I'm always guilty of saying, look, you're already online, do the Googler, but we're doing a show right now. So there's only so much research one can do in the midst of a program.
But see, I hadn't even noticed that part in the interview when you said, wait a minute, 2? It's like,
it was not a slip of the tongue. She actually said that.
She said it.
And the way she said it did not sound like a mistake. That's why I said it was curious to me.
Indeed.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I am paying attention. It looks like I'm not, but I am.
Kitty Wigmore here. These two premiers, Smith and Holt, seem to demonstrate the difference between politicians who take money from business interests versus politicians who understand their roles as public servants.
You are
Ooh,
correct.
that is well stated.
Yeah, that's a home run, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
That is Game 7, triple overtime, top shelf, gold to win the Stanley Cup. That one. Well done. Well
Absolutely.
done. I got a jet, sir. It's getting to that hour.
Oh,
I was doing some calculations this morning, and based on where I think I might be working in the future, I could do 7 to 7:30.
okay. All
Yeah,
right.
I can do 7
We'll,
to 7:30.
we'll make that happen.
Yeah, and that's but again, I could be working at a different office. So until I know, but I calculated the furthest point, and it takes about an hour to get there, which is not so bad. I thought it was 90 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, no, we'll make that happen. Like I said, I'll have to adjust my awake time so that we can start at 7 more firmly. But yeah, we can
Well,
do
that
that.
just means when my alarm goes off at I used to get up at 5:30, and Bridget was like, "Please, it's too early. You don't go to work till 8:30." I'm like, "Yeah, but I get up and I need to prepare and do the show." She goes, "Just please." So I set the alarm to 6.
Yeah.
It goes off and I wake up and I read a bit, and at 6:30 I get out of bed.
Yeah.
And then I jump on and do this. So what I'll have to do is take Lola out from 6 to 6:30. So I'll
Yes.
have to get up at 5:30.
Yeah. Hopefully, as well as I'm healing, I will be able to get around a little faster.
Mhm. Well,
I'm still underestimating time.
as you've had to relocate your sleeping quarters, you're closer to the computer now. So
I am closer to the computer, but I'm further away from my clothes, as I remembered. It's like from this morning. I was in there, came in, and it's like Mr. Grizzly saw me, and it's like, yeah, I need to go get a shirt because
I'm like, "Are we doing it? Is it nude day? Is it nude day?" And I didn't know. I don't have an issue with that. Just let
I'm
me
like,
know.
darn, I forgot to bring a shirt into the spare room. I have to go into the room and wake up Alex anyway. It's like, damn.
Oh well. Anyway, I do have to go. So thanks to each and every one of you for joining us. Once again, I do appreciate each and every one of you, and I will be back again real soon. You take care.
You have a wonderful day, sir.
Thanks.
All right, kits and cubs. I hopefully have the second part of the clip here that I wanted to show you from Premier Holt talking to David Cochrane. This one is more about how quickly things could be done. Uh, Mr. Cochrane, during the discussions, many of his interviews had sort of like one common question that he would ask all the premiers. So it would seem a little repetitive, but I know why he was doing it because, he want to get everybody's impression. And it was that at the moment, it's easy for everyone to be happy because nobody's been told no yet, right? At some point, some people are going to be told no. And then maybe things won't be so happy anymore. But he's wondering here specifically, it's kind of related. I don't know if it's specifically in this vein because he was asking the question directly, and this one is a little more indirect with regard to the level of optimism and how quickly people around the table think that things can get started. And I want to show this clip because Premier Holt makes a very, very, very good comment here. Because when we're talking about the pipeline, for example, right, that's not something that's going to be started really quickly, right? The path that it would travel and all that kind of stuff would have to be approved, whatnot, and you still have to find a proponent and you still have to do all that other stuff, right? There's probably not going to be a proposal for a new pipeline ready to go to be, built and approved within 2 years for another 2 years and that. But there are other things that can help with these goals and objectives that can be done that might be able to start a little more quickly. So over here, we have Premier Holt talking about that, what her situation is in New Brunswick. Again, a pretty unique situation for her. A pretty unique situation for her in that just geographically where New Brunswick is located. As you mentioned in the previous answer, she's sort of, with regard to the Atlantic provinces, sort of in the heart of everything, but also because it's a port city, right, with one of the cities potentially most affected by the tariffs and all that kind of thing. So let's see what she has to say, because this is particularly interesting.
There's the speed at which government normally moves, the speed at industry likes to move, and then there's the speed of expectations, and they're not necessarily in alignment, even if all the leadership is. So are we looking at seeing like projects moving this calendar year, or, you know, moving through the approval this calendar year, like shovels in ground in the fall? Like, where are we on that?
That's a good question, because the federal government tells us they're keen to get this legislation in right away so that they can use this major project office to move things along. Some of the things that we've put forward, like the Eastern Energy Partnership and our St. John Trade Corridor project, those don't need a lot of approvals by way of federal work. They really just need the partnership, some of the supporting dollars.
A lot of alignment there.
A lot of alignment. So those are ready to move, and I think could be moving before the end of this calendar year, absolutely. Some of the other projects that we've heard about need a bit more development, but in New Brunswick's case, we put forward the things that are going to move this year and next year so that we see the benefit right away.
Same question I asked Tim Houston, in that everyone is happy and all together today because nobody got a no. And at some point, they're going to start getting no's. And what's your sense of this all being able to hold together to move with this propulsion and unity once winners and losers start emerging from the lists of projects that were submitted?
Well, I think one of the things that happened really well around the table today is that we all agreed on some of these priorities. The need for these critical mineral pathways is something that they want to see in BC, they want to see in Manitoba, in Ontario, we in New Brunswick want to see it. People who are interested in export diversification infrastructure, that applies to multiple provinces. So like you say, everyone has a place to plug in. New Brunswick more than most, I think. You know, we're walking away with 4 out of the 5 right up our alley. And so I think key will be the ability to deliver. The ability to deliver on the promise of today and to keep the team together. But it's a strong team, and we know that Canada benefits more when we continue to work in alignment. So I think the interest is there to do it.
Expectations are like up here, though.
Oh, yeah.
They're above the Golden Dome. You know what I mean? In terms of what the Prime Minister has said with his words and promises, and what, you know, even though the specifics aren't here today, the message that's being sent is you're going to deliver on these things. It's going to.
But I like a high bar. Right? A high bar makes you reach. It makes you, it maybe takes you further than you would have gone otherwise. So I like a high bar, and I think that we're all going to have to hold each other to account to get there, federal government included. But I'm both pragmatic on this, impatient, but feeling really confident in Canada's ability to distinguish ourselves globally in the face of this crisis with the U.S. and really build something that's going to benefit every Canadian.
Right. Well, no pressure. You just have a whole country counting on you. Susan Holt, Premier of New Brunswick, always good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, David.
All right, well, Premier.
Well, there you go, kits and cubs. So, one, what a delightful interaction, right? As Kit Nona Carol pointed out here, the interaction is awesome. It is. She's engaged. She's happy to be there. She sees, some prospects, some opportunities. She speaks well of her fellow partners in the region. Earlier on in the interview, she was mentioning as well, it's like around the table, she got the sense that it's not my region versus your region, my project versus your project. It's like, my project is important to us in our region and for our development, and people see that. And like I said, we see that equally as important for you in the West or in the North, and we're not going to get in the way of that, because, what's good for, if when one region or province does what's good for itself. Now, of course, good for itself, the caveat, in a way that doesn't cause harm to others, then is good for the nation as a whole, which is true. So this opportunity for them to all sit around the table, and I guess it was, depending how the discussion was led by Prime Minister Carney, if it was really as in, okay, what's your project? What's your project? Okay, well, your project. Well, it's a pipeline, Alberta. Well, if you're in Prince Edward Island, well, how does this help me? Because, well, this is the way that it helps you, even if you're not involved or you are involved. And like this, oh, okay, well, the Eastern Energy Pathway, how does that help us? Oh, that's how it helps us. So it seems that the pitch was always from the province to the federal government, or the federal governments to the province individually. but there was no sort of like, if like the Churchill Falls deal, it involves uh, Newfoundland, Labrador, and Quebec, and pretty much nobody else, right? So why would anybody care? Right? Why would PEI care? Why would Saskatchewan care if there was money going for that rather than their thing? Well, why is that going for Churchill Falls and not for us? Well, now the links, it seems that why this project out there that doesn't involve your province is actually good for you in some ways or can benefit you later. This makes sense, especially if we do manage to have that east to west electricity grid, clean electricity grid going back and forth. Well, then all of a sudden there's other concerns, right? We've been hearing Danielle Smith talk all the time about baseload power, baseload power. Like, so we need more oil and gas for baseload power. We have to kill all renewables because we have to put the money into oil and gas because we need more baseload power. Well, if you've got electrical grids going from coast to coast, like this, that the hydro from Manitoba and excess hydro from British Columbia can be deployed into Alberta because the electrical lines are there. Well, all of a sudden, you don't need as much oil and gas baseload, do you? Because other provinces can help. Yes, if she is going the pathways route with decarbonization of gas and using nuclear to do that, well, whenever nuclear energy is not used for the decarbonization process, that's excess energy that can be used if the province needs it, right? So all of a sudden, these because these projects that are linking energy production, that could link energy production from clear across the country to the other end of the country, if that becomes a reality, that changes the game like you would not believe. I was having a bit of an exchange yesterday with Mr. David Gray, who we have on our show a lot. Because, well, he is an economist and he does have a background specifically when it comes to electricity, right? So, having a little conversation online and, you know, the word on everybody's lips or the question on everybody's lips when we're talking about this, right? We've got this new buzzword, decarbonized. Well, what does that really mean? And, there's the definition, right? But then, decarbonization after the sort of like conventional definition definitely means a lot of things to different people. Some people hear decarbonized and they wonder, well, it's like, well, if you still burn it, there's still stuff. So how decarbonized is it? Is it at the as David Cochran mentioned in the first clip that we saw, um, you know, it's decarbonization at the process of extraction and all that kind of stuff, but maybe not at the point of consumption. Um, there are a whole bunch of other ways that that could be interpreted. So there needs to be an agreement specifically on what, as it applies to pipelines specifically, what decarbonization is going to really mean. We have an expression in French that says like, "Qu'est-ce que ça mange en hiver?" which literally translated means like, what does that eat in the wintertime? So basically just saying, like you can say the word is, but you need to tell me specifically what it is and how it works because the word itself means nothing to me. Um, so in this, um, I was thinking, um, with Danielle having to de-pretzel herself in one way and then re-pretzel herself. Like, for example, as I mentioned yesterday, I wouldn't be surprised if she's going to be announcing later that she's getting back into the renewables game. Yes. And because, she said it's a grand bargain. So a grand bargain does come with some conditions. And, says, well, it has to be decarbonized oil. So, and maybe there was also an extra discussion, and you need to get back in the renewables. David Gray said, fighting every piece of environmental legislation and destroying our burgeoning renewable sector, castigating everything that isn't combustion as communism was the stupidest goddamn thing ever done by this stupid government. Don't get me wrong. Not everything they do is stupid. Some of it is evil. Yikes. So definitely not holding back at all is Mr. Gray here. But also, when talking about this, right, wondering about, whether or not if we're using nuclear for this purpose, whether or not that would allow some extra resources for energy for Alberta with that type of stuff. He also had a lot to say. Unfortunately, for some reason, it seems to have vanished from my screen. So hopefully I will find it somewhere else. But no, I do not. So I'm going to have to get back to that for you, kids and cubs. I had it and it just completely vanished on me. Very weird. And I was pretty sure I had it bookmarked, but I guess I do not. So I'm going to have to go looking for it later on. I apologize for that. I really thought that I had it all ready for you. But this energy thing that we're talking about, right? You get to see now that if we're able to connect the various regions, how various regions can then are better placed to help each other out in times of need. So if we are able as a country to actually build in some redundancy, right? That would definitely make things much easier for long-term planning and predictability. And that's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for long-term planning. We're looking for predictability. And we're looking, because we're moving to a greener world, a manner in which people can, if we want to attract foreign investment and different businesses, the way that they can produce their products here in Canada in such a way that they have the lowest carbon footprint possible so that they are more prized exports when it comes time to doing that, when it comes time to ship them. And that, of course, that it can be imported into any country without any carbon border adjustment measure having to be applied to it or things of the like. So these things are important. So if you can connect everybody and make sure that cleaner energy gets to places that are a little more carbon intensive for a relatively good price, well, then that's very attractive and it makes a lot of projects way more interesting. And again, unfortunately, um, he says here, I found it finally. He says, if we were smart, when I asked, what's this decarbonization, the question on many lips today, what is this decarbonized bitumen RPM speaks of? And he says, if we were smart, it would probably mean reducing our bitumen mining's carbon footprint. The processes used to turn tar sands into oil can change. One example is underground partial combustion, where oxygen is pumped into boreholes and used to burn some of the hydrocarbons. The heat is enough to allow the bitumen to flow like oil and partly breaks down the long chain of hydrocarbons. The tremendous amount of process steam needed could be generated by nuclear plants with some free cogeneration using up any surplus steam. There we go. Finally, and again, if we were smart, we could re-up our carbon offset trading platforms. They were once the best anywhere. There are so many things we could do if we were smart. But we're Alberta. Beer nuts? That's what I say. Thank him for that. And I say, I guess if there's any cogeneration via nuclear, that could also assist in increasing baseload power if needed. And if there's a clean east-west grid, that brings hydroelectric to Alberta from other provinces, that too would help. And he responds, the magic combination, however, is prairie wind and solar with turbine capacity added to existed BC and Manitoba hydro dams to add more instantaneous reserve capacity. It would provide firm power starting in the $50 per megawatt range. That's cheap enough to attract industrial development. Suddenly, these deals become more interesting. And now provinces are seeing what's in it for them to support projects in other regions that don't necessarily involve them. That's a game changer here. That's an absolute game changer. So this is very, very positive. I'm very glad it's all it's going this way. I'm glad that this is the reaction, that there's good mood about it and all that good stuff. And hopefully that good mood will continue on for the months to come. Now, Pierre Poilievre, of course, in a tweet that really, 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 really did not age well at all, and it surely did not take a lot of time, prior to the meeting, um, had some stuff to say about what the meeting absolutely needed to result in, or else it was going to be an absolute and complete failure. At the Premier's meeting tomorrow, Mark Carney must announce a repeal of the industrial carbon tax, the energy cap, the no pipelines law, and tanker ban, and set up shovel-ready zones to get things built. Otherwise, this will just be another Liberal PR stunt like the last 10 years. Time to get the federal government out of the way to release trillions in riches from our ground and break our dependence on the U.S. Well, Prime Minister Carney, last I checked, Mr. Poilievre, did not announce a repeal of the industrial carbon tax, did not announce a repeal of the energy cap, did not announce a repeal of the alleged no pipelines law, under which no pipeline has ever been refused, and one has actually been approved, and did not announce shovel-ready zones to get things built or an end to the tanker ban. And yet, everybody is just delighted with the meeting. Even Danielle is, quote, encouraged. Sir? Maybe. You are irrelevant. Maybe you're irrelevant. Just saying. Because all those musts did not happen. And still, you got Doug Ford. And other people saying that was the best meeting they've had in a while. And everybody's energized. Yeah. So, that didn't age well at all. Then some people were wondering, this is Jesse McCormick, if Pierre Poilievre was prime minister, the first minister's meeting wouldn't be an exchange of ideas. It would be a list of slogans followed by limited media access and plenty of fundraising emails. There is a lack of substance here. It is mostly rhetoric. And that was Pierre, again poo-pooing on everything before it started. Meetings won't get pipelines, power lines, or mines built. We must repeal anti-development liberal laws and taxes. That would unlock trillions of dollars of resources for Canadian paychecks and sovereignty. But it's the other party that's producing slogans, according to the Conservatives. And then there was more BS. There were some people that pointed out, because they couldn't help but notice, that dear Danielle Smith at the closing press conference was all the way to the left here on the table. And there were some people going, oh my God, such disrespect, separation immediately. Yes, because we are going to, not being happy with the seating chart is a good reason to break up a country. This is patently not serious discussion here. But this person here was like, just because people were saying, she's been put in a corner. Just for your information, the seating order protocol around the First Minister's table is based on the order in which provinces joined Confederation. The original four, Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, all flank the PM at the head of the table. Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Newfoundland and Labrador are the furthest away. This is standard protocol and helps to avoid wrangling over who should sit where. Don't read anything to it. There's a lot of reasons to deplore Ottawa's treatment of the West. Seating around the FPT table is not one of them. Oh. Really? Really? Okay, because that sounds absolutely reasonable, wouldn't it? There's a protocol. This is done. It's the Order of Confederation. Yeah, that sounds right. Until you check, because Kits and Cubs, if you watched the show yesterday, you saw the big table and you clearly saw the Prime Minister of Canada with Scott Moe, if you're looking at the screen, on the left, and Doug Ford on the right. Well, last I checked, Saskatchewan was not one of the first 4 provinces to join Confederation. Oh, so maybe the seating chart isn't based on protocol about when you joined Confederation. If you looked at, let's hold on. Let's see here if I can get something to you. The image goes by very, very, very quickly, uh, particularly at the beginning. But you will see here, I believe. There we go. Scott Moe, right next to the Prime Minister. Not Ontario, not Quebec, not New Brunswick, not Nova Scotia. Interesting. And then if just turn down the volume here, and if we go down, whoops, Daniel Smith all the way at the end. Who's this guy? Oh, the Premier of Prince Edward Island, who joined Confederation in 1873. Huh. You'd think he'd be a little closer to the Prime Minister if that was the seating chart. Interesting. So again, even when it sounds reasonable, you still need to double check it, because there's a chance that it's BS. In this case, baby Danny was put in a corner. To the left. I know, I'm petty. But yeah, absolutely. You got doubt everything. Right? Doubt everything. Because even sometimes when it sounds infinitely reasonable, yeah, it isn't. Then yesterday, something else happened, Kits and Cubs. There was a vote in the House because, the Conservatives have been, just so eager for the government to table a budget. Got to have a budget, even though they had no intention of tabling one themselves. Got to have a budget right now, right? You're the man with the plan, so where's your budget? Table it now. Let us see it. Well, there was a vote. It was the third vote of this session. It was a vote on the speech from the throne. So they had 3 votes on it, various amendments and stuff. And I guess this one was the Conservative amendment. And the Conservatives said that they told Canadians and their voters specifically that they were going to introduce an amendment to the motion to demand a spring budget. Come what may, whether it's a good idea or not, whether it's feasible, whether it's a good expensive resources or not, whether the budget itself that would be produced would be credible in any way, worth the paper it's written on, they wanted it and they were going to force it. Okay. Number 1, these are motions, and motions are not legally binding. So even if it passed, it does not obligate the government to do anything. So the Conservatives right now are saying that they're going to force, by using a mechanism that does not compel. Not exactly sure how you force someone to do something if you give them the choice. Right? So already it's a lie. But the bill passed. The motion passed. Third motion of this parliament, and the government lost the motion. 166 to 164. But you turn, wait a minute. Aren't there 169 Liberal MPs sitting at the moment? Why, yes, there are. Well, what happened to the other 5? I guess they were no-shows. Oh my god. Well, the prime minister was at the meeting, right? Chrystia Freeland and Dominic LeBlanc were also at the meeting. So, what happens in that case? Well, they can't all be there to vote, right? So often in Canadian Parliament, when people are not going to be there to vote, they have something called pairing. So if you have to be out somewhere representing the country, and there's a vote, you're going to vote one way, somebody's going to vote the other way, you pair up, and you both don't vote. That's how we avoid minority parliaments falling because when the prime minister happens to be off at a NATO summit, for example. Well, kids and cubs, conservatives are definitely at it again. Now, this is Fred Delory, who started this thing yesterday, although I'm sure there's probably other people. But we all know Fred Delory, right? He's like one of the big wigs on the inside for the Conservative Party of Canada, right? Making a frequent pundit on many shows, talking about a lot of stuff. Former national campaign manager for the Conservative Party of Canada. And he actually tweets, well, let's start this way. Marco Vigliotti, who we quote a lot or cite a lot because he works with iPolitics, posted a tweet that said, "The House has voted in favor of a conservative amendment to the throne speech calling for a budget to be introduced before the House rises for the summer. The amendment passed 160, well, he's got the number wrong here, 167 to 164. The Liberals have 167 seats, so they had some no-shows. That was the original thing. That didn't actually end up being accurate. But Fred Delory jumped on that and said, the Liberals are governing like they have a majority. They don't. They just lost a vote forcing them to table a spring budget, something they weren't planning to do, something you guys weren't planning to do either. If they're not careful, they're going to Joe Clark themselves." Now, his statement, they just lost a vote, forcing them to table a spring budget. Those are the words. Is that actually true? Well, kids and cubs, fortunately, there is a place that is called ourcommons.ca where you can see what the vote is, what the results are, who sponsored the bill, and what the actual text of the motion is. So, hey, let's take a look at that. Sponsored by the Honorable Andrew Scheer, Conservative, Regina Capel, Saskatchewan. Motion text: that the motion be amended by adding the following. And we urge your Majesty's advisors to include a firm commitment to present to Parliament an economic update or budget this spring before the House adjourns for the summer that incorporates measures aimed at unleashing Canada's economic potential, including full accountability of Canada's finances with respect for the areas of jurisdiction and the institutions of Quebec and the provinces, as well as Indigenous peoples. Notice the verb is not force. We urge your Majesty's advisor to present to Parliament an economic update or budget. We urge you to present one or the other in this non-binding motion that does not obligate you to anything. That became the Liberals will be forced to table a spring budget. When you translate from English to conservative BS, it's a lie. It's an outright, bald-faced, blatant, deliberate lie. Knowingly and intentionally. Nobody can tell me that Fred Fred Delorey's command of English is so terrible that he cannot read, that he would read this motion and cannot understand that urge is not the same thing as force, and that an economic statement or budget does not mean a budget to the exclusion of anything else. And yet he chose to frame it factually as a motion forcing the government to table a spring budget. That's weird, isn't it? Now, even the Conservatives' own critic, and this is the title, by the way, Gits and Cubs. I kid you not on this one. Mr. Michael Barrett, for whom we have no love here, the shadow minister for ethics and accountable government. Even he is saying it. That this motion forces. Parliament passed a Conservative motion ordering PM Mark Carney to table a full spring budget after breaking his 2% cap promise with a $500 billion spending spree. Canadians deserve the truth. Will he deliver a plan or dodge accountability? Yeah, if Canadians deserve the truth, how about not lying about the motion? Because the motion did not order Mark Carney to table a full spring budget. It urged the government to table either an economic update or a full spring budget. So maybe we should have a shadow minister for ethics and accountable opposition. Mr. Barrett. Maybe. Perhaps. Right? Oh, but the deception does not end there, kids and cubs. Oh, no. See, they want you to believe that the governing party is incompetent and can't count, right? If they're not careful, they're going to Joe Clark themselves. Well, there were a total, as I mentioned to you, of 8 paired votes. Again, our commons, very, very handy here. As you can see, kids and cubs. Vote number 3, vote respecting address and the reply to the speech from the throne amendment as amendment with sub-amendment. Votes yay, 166, nay, 164, paired 8. The Liberals have 169. There were 160 votes for. 1 vote is the Prime Minister's. That brings to 168. And then the 4 paired votes brings it to 164. So you have Mr. Delorey saying, oh my God, the Liberals are so incompetent. It's like they can't count, just like Joe Clark. Well, it turns out that the Liberals counted quite well. But the Conservatives didn't, because had the Liberals decided not to keep their word on pairing, the vote would have failed 168 to 166. They were present. Right? So it's not that there were no shows. They were off doing the business of the nation. And they paired votes. Marco Vigliotti, later on, did manage, kept on updating the news as he got it. And he said, the 4 Liberals who didn't vote last night, they were all paired, meaning they sat out in alignment with opposition members who were absent. That means 100% of Liberals are accounted for. Oh. Yes. Chambers paired with Mr. Chung, who wasn't present. Ailfson paired with David McGuinty. Plamondon paired with Ruff. And Sidhu from Brampton East paired with Wilkinson. Interesting. So all of a sudden, it's not the same. Then he was called out, then Fred Delorey was called out by government whip Mark Garrettson. who said, very surprised you would jump on this without giving it some thought, Fred Delory. 169 minus 1, speaker, 4 paired votes, 164. Oh, yes, I forgot 169. Yeah, the speaker. That's true. 168. Huh. Interesting. To which Fred Delory responds in another lie. Another lie. Because now he got caught. He's trying to save face. Right? So let's see what that lie here is. I'll make that bigger here. Just pointing out how precarious things are, one of the first votes of the new parliament, and the government comes up short, paired or not, expected or not. That's worth paying attention to. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter if they were paired. You lost the vote. That's the thing that's paying attention to. Okay, except that Delory claimed that a non-binding vote urging government to table an economic statement or budget equals a vote forcing government to table a spring budget, and then suggested incompetence when he knew there were paired votes. So clearly, that's not all Fred was just doing. Fred wasn't just pointing out how precarious things are. Fred lied. Fred presented a counter narrative. And then he got called out on it and says, I'm just trying to point out it's precarious. No, that's not all you were trying to do. We all read your full tweet. The Liberals are governing like they have a majority. A statement of fact. They don't. Statement of fact. They just lost a vote forcing them to table a spring budget, something they weren't planning to do. Presented a lie, presented as a statement of fact. If they're not careful, they're going to Joe Clark themselves. He wasn't just pointing out the precariousness. And clearly it was a party-wide strategy, as even the shadow Minister for Ethics and Accountable Government jumped in on it. Because that's how you build trust and show that you're a government in waiting. By saying you forced people to do one thing when all you did was urge them and you gave them a choice. One has to wonder why it is the Conservatives simply cannot tell the truth about anything and would wish to be known as eager to deceive their own voters. This party cannot grow, learn, or change. It cannot. It will not. It doesn't want to. And according to Evan Scrimshaw, quite literally nothing forces them to table a budget. The amendment urges the government to table an economic update or budget this spring, given the estimates process they have to do anyways. The estimates have to be passed by June 23rd, and they have to present some type of update or fiscal position statement when they're presenting the estimates anyways. So the thing I don't understand about the Conservative strategy of claiming that they have forced the Prime Minister to table the spring budget is what they will do and what they will tell their voters when there is no budget. I guess they're just going to have to start denying to Canadians and those who vote for them that motions are non-binding, which would be lying to the people yet again, or saying that the Liberals are lawless. We passed something in the House. We've told you, forcing you to do it. Well, that's not what you did. So there's going to come a moment where they're telling all their people, as we forced them. They're going to table a spring budget, and that spring budget is not going to come. What do they do then? I do not know why this party keeps on trying to win the nanosecond when they can see the hole that they've just thrown themselves into. But this party does that. And that's not all the party was doing on that day. That was very, very deceptive. According to CBC, a caller raising money for the Conservative Party cast doubt on the validity of the recount process in the recent federal elections, according to a recording obtained by CBC News. Again, this party cannot change. It has pleaded guilty in court to committing crimes, the in and out thing. Its leader has a lifetime deferred prosecution agreement with Elections Canada. It can't run a clean leadership race. It's negative. It's angry. It's toxic. This party should not exist. It has no reason for being other than perpetuating its own anger. It serves nobody and can't seem to function in a normal way, in a way that's not illegal or corrupt. Both the party and its leader have been accused of crimes. The party pleaded guilty to the crimes, and the leader signed a document saying, okay, I'll be a good boy from now on if you don't take me to court, because I'm probably going to lose. And on the third vote in Parliament, they're lying to people about what that vote was, while simultaneously, according to Kate McKenna, a caller raising money for the Conservative Party cast doubt on the validity of the recount process in the recent federal elections, according to a recording obtained by CBC News. In the fundraising call, which happened on Saturday, an official identifying herself as being from the Conservative Party supporter services claimed that Liberals and media seek to, quote, attack Conservatives and, quote, scrutinize the results of 2 judicial recounts won by Conservatives. Later in the call, she suggested to a potential donor that the results of the recounts were not final. Yeah, they are. The results of a recount are unappealable. They are final. We have the appeal in Terrebonne, but that's because there were irregularities. With the vote, nothing to do with the count. The count has been sanctioned. Tatiana Auguste is sitting in that seat until such time as that there's a decision about the rest. The results have been published in the Gazette. The recounts are final. Quote, we need to stand up. We need to make sure all the votes are accurate and counted. There's nothing wrong with the accuracy of the votes. How do you make sure the votes are accurate? You go and look at each ballot and then you find who cast the ballot and then say, is this accurate? This is how you can't make sure the votes are accurate. You can make sure the count is accurate, but make sure all the votes are accurate? Huh. Interesting. The caller appeared to be referring to two tight races that were ultimately won by Conservatives, the Newfoundland riding of Terra Nova, the Peninsulas, and the Ontario riding of Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore. There was absolutely no action whatsoever by any other party to try to contest those votes, contest those results, challenge them in any way. Nothing. There's no need for this call because nobody's trying to do anything. Everybody has accepted these results as being final. She made the call a week after judicial recounts finished and after both Liberal candidates had conceded their losses. The call was recorded by the recipient who previously supported the Conservative Party of Canada. CBC News is not identifying the donor who fears reprisal for speaking out. He said he shared the audio from the call because he felt frustrated and insulted that the party cast doubt on the integrity of the electoral process. Lying to your own voters when they know you are lying and insulting their intelligence comes at a price. This story is now in the press as a result of it. It's not the first time the Conservatives have sought to fundraise by suggesting Liberals are trying to affect the outcome of elections after the ballots were cast. Shortly after the election, the party sent an email to its mailing list suggesting that their rivals sought to, quote, flip just enough seats to edge closer to a majority, and were trying to, quote, tip the scales in the recounts. Quote, it's part of a very common but unsavory technique to get people to donate, said Chris Tenove, an assistant director of the Center for the Study of Democratic Institutions at the University of British Columbia. Quote, you both ring an emergency bell and say urgent funding is needed to address it, and that can be put people into a state of mind where they're perhaps more likely to give money. Big picture, I think this strategy of political advertising is corrosive. Conservative spokeswoman Sarah Fisher said in a statement that the party did not question the results, quote, but wanted to ensure the recounts were accurate and fair. After they've been completed, after the results have been published, and after the two Liberal candidates have conceded and nobody is challenging them, what business is there wanting to ensure that the recounts were accurate and fair? What else is left to do? So that's a lie. That's a bald-faced lie. Under Canadian law, recounts are automatically triggered when the difference in the numbers of votes received by the top finishing candidates is 0.1% or less of the total number of votes cast. There are costs for parties and candidates during recounts and legitimate reasons for parties to help scrutinize results. However, the recounts were already over at the time of the call with winners confirmed. Quote, it made me wonder, was this an effective fundraising approach that was used in recent weeks and this individual just isn't ready to let it go, said Tanov. A few weeks ago, it made sense that you did need scrutineers and maybe legal representatives right there to advance the Conservative position and the process. It's not at all clear why they would be necessary now. A recent Leger poll found that 25% of Conservative supporters said they don't trust the election results. The public's trust in election results have become a flashpoint in political discourse following the 2021 Stop the Steal movement in the United States, based on the debunked conspiracy that former President Joe Biden's win was rigged. So Conservatives are importing GOP, Trump, American politics to Canada. CBC has verified the veracity of the audio. The phone number associated with the calls directs to a voicemail message identifying it as the Voter Outreach and Funding Office for the Conservative Party of Canada. The caller is first heard saying hello and thanking the supporter for past donations. Then the topic turns to the recounts. Quote, we won the two major election recounts all across the country, but the media liberals are trying to attack us and scrutinize the result. So now we have political operators on the ground, she said, before asking for a $1,750 donation to the Recount the Fight fund. But there are no recounts to fight. The supporter questioned what the party official was saying, noting that the recounts were completed and the Conservatives won them. Quote, I didn't really like your message. The recounts are already over, and I don't believe in a media conspiracy, so you're not selling me today, he said. The party official doubled down. Right now, the Liberal media is attacking us. They're trying to scrutinize our results here, so we need to stand up. We need to make sure all the votes are accurate and counted. I don't believe that message. I'm sorry, said the former donor. Then the party official hung up and the line went dead. Fisher said the party is looking into the caller's conduct as they expect respectful and a proper phone etiquette from all callers. The problem wasn't lack of respect or phone etiquette, though I'm pretty sure that was part of it too. The problem was that the caller was outright lying, was trying to commit fraud, was trying to fleece this person of up to $1,750 for a fight that did not exist, for a cause that was not legitimate. There is nothing to look into the caller's conduct. It's blatantly obvious. This is a party that should not exist. That call and what was done, that's illegal. That was an attempt at fraud. And I have a feeling that if that caller was working and placing calls, that wasn't the only such call that has been placed. How many actually donated based on that call? Because every single one of those dollars was acquired by the party through deception. We are dealing with a party that does not follow laws. The party should not exist. It should be delisted. How many laws does this party and to its members get to break or play fast and loose with? They are not interested in governing. Clearly, they are not interested in growing. They are not interested in changing. This is not behavior that is consistent with that. This is pure grift. It's disgusting. I swear, kids and cubs, some days. Just, man. All right. As you know, kids and cubs, it is Pride Month. And two interesting things to bring to you here. The first one comes to us courtesy of the United States. It would seem that Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, has ordered that the USNS, U.S. Navy ship, I guess, Harvey Milk, named for the gay rights icon, be renamed. Harvey Milk served as a diving officer and later as a diving instructor for 4 years in the U.S. Navy. And of course, this was announced at the start of Pride Month. So clearly, as Charlotte Clymer states, who is a veteran in the United States, intentional. Yeah, you would do that in the first days of Pride Month because cruelty is the point, right? Just add that extra sting to the slap across the face. Also, because it is important to know our history. This is something that we have talked about before on the show, but it's always good to look back at it. There was a time in Canada, not that long ago, where you could be sent to jail for being gay. This is Craig Baird again of Canadian History X. George Everett Clippert spent years of his life in jail and was labeled as a dangerous offender for the then crime, of being gay. His case led to the decriminalization of homosexuality in Canada, but he still remained behind bars. This is the gentleman here, George Everett Clippert. So, how could this happen? You might wonder. Clippert was born on September 6, 1926 in Kindersley, Saskatchewan, but raised in Calgary. After high school, he worked as a bus driver. In 1960, he was charged with 18 counts of gross indecency, the standard charge for homosexuality at the time. After he was released from prison, he moved to Pine Point, Northwest Territories, where he worked as a mechanic's helper. In 1965, he was questioned regarding an act of arson. He was not involved, but while being questioned, he admitted to having consensual sex with 4 men. I'm not sure how that comes up in an investigation about arson, but it does. At that time, he pleaded to 4 counts of gross indecency and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Since he was convicted before on that charge, the Crown wanted him designated as a dangerous sexual offender. 2 psychiatrists testified he was incurably homosexual. Clippert appealed his ruling to the Supreme Court of Canada, who upheld the sentence. Bud Orange, Clippert's MP, raised the case in the House of Commons. Tommy Douglas argued that Clippert was not a criminal, but did add he needed psychiatric help. And then there was this article that appeared in the Star at the time. It says, homosexual shocked by lifetime ruling, by Sidney Katz back in the day. The Supreme Court of Canada's decision this week to reject the appeal of a 40-year-old homosexual against preventive detention for life shocked many lawyers and psychiatrists, as well as spokesmen for Metro's estimated 40,000 homosexuals. Their reaction was sharp because Everett Clippert was not a dangerous or violent man. On 4 occasions, he was caught practicing homosexual acts in private with a consenting adult. Chief Justice Cartwright disagreed. The last sentence, he said, should be given the meaning, quote, or likely to commit a further sexual offense involving an element of danger to another person. Clippert's dilemma stems from the, quote, gross indecency section in the criminal code that makes every practicing homosexual a criminal. Removal of this clause has been the dream of Canadian homosexuals for years. A 43-year-old homosexual who manages a Metro store told me, quote, it's a vicious law. Nobody is harmed by 2 consenting adults who perform in private what comes naturally to them. Jews and Negroes and other minorities are now protected by anti-discrimination legislation. We homosexuals are society's remaining scapegoats. Hope that Canada may follow the British lead in legalizing private homosexuality follows a statement this year by Justice Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau. He said he personally favored liberalizing the laws. He would ask that the matter be explored by the committee headed by Mr. Justice Roger Ouimet of the Quebec Superior Court, now examining the criminal law. Whether the reforms can come fast enough is a moot point. Dr. Nelger says, quote, the stiff sentence given Clippert may increase the practice of blackmailing homosexuals. Another possible, anyway, the article then goes on, but that's how they were writing about it at the time. Due to the public response over the Supreme Court ruling, Pierre Trudeau, at the time federal justice minister, introduced a sweeping omnibus bill that would make many changes to the criminal code. One of those changes was the decriminalization of homosexuality. We got to the famous statement of the state has no place in the bedrooms of the nation. The bill became law in 1969. It legalized consensual sex between men if they were above the age of 21. It was done in private and involved no more than two people. So even though it was decriminalized at the time, a threesome, for example, was still a criminal act because it was considered a public sex act. While Clippert's case sparked the change in Canada's laws, he was not released from prison immediately. Wow. Landmark sex case set for parole. The criminal code was amended in 1969 when it was felt that the conviction of Everett George Clippert as a dangerous sexual offender would make every homosexual in Canada liable to life imprisonment. Clippert is still serving the harshest sentence ever meted out for such behavior, one that would almost amount to life in prison. He has been in Saskatchewan Penitentiary since 1965 when he was sentenced at Pine Point. Chief Justice Cartwright's conclusion was that on the basis of this judgment, anyone committing a homosexual act with another adult male and likely to do so should be imprisoned for life. And no evidence as to the nature of the acts that Clippert pleaded guilty to was brought before the court that originally sentenced him to 3 years. So, the acts were decriminalized, but they still kept this man in jail until 1971. 2 extra years before he was released. He moved to Edmonton and worked as a truck driver until he retired. He refused to march in pride parades or become a public figure in the gay rights movement in Canada. I would guess so. After all the attention he's received, the last thing he probably wanted to do was draw more attention to himself. He died on August 7th, 1996 of kidney disease. In 2016, a Globe and Mail story brought Clippert's story back into public view. That same year, it was recommended he receive a full pardon. On November 18th, 2020, an expungement order was issued by the Parole Board of Canada, officially pardoning Clippert. Wasn't that long ago. The last person in jail for being gay was still in jail in 1971. It's not even a lifetime ago. It's important for us to know our history so that we don't repeat it. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. It helps us out immensely, especially when you share our content and you let people know how you feel about it. Because when it comes from a word from you, because you are all influencers in your own circle, it makes people pay more attention. So I thank you so much for all that you do to help us. Now, if you would like to make sure that you do not miss an episode, because maybe you're on the go, because you're being engaged in democracy, and you're busy. Well, don't worry. We're portable. Take us with you. If you scan that QR code, it will bring you to our pod page, which is made available to you thanks to the generous donation of Ray Girl. And if you're listening, you go to podpage.com/thetruenortheagerbeaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to your podcast feed and you don't even have to go looking for it, right there waiting for you. If you would like to, oh my God, I just quoted Richard Marx. Right there waiting for you. Wherever you go. Oh, I love that song. I hadn't heard it in a long time. I might actually listen to that when the show's over. Once you get an earworm, you have to listen to the song. If you would like to support us in other ways, right here, the True North Eager Beaver YouTube page is where you could go to. We have some buttons there. Like, share, and subscribe. Kit Elaine is definitely urging you to smash with our buttons. And if you're listening live, remember, if you smash now, you don't have to remember to do it before you leave. Smashing is fun for everyone. Like, share, and subscribe. Those are our buttons. Flick them, click them, and lick them. It's pride. Get freaky. It makes us happy, and it helps us with the algorithm. So thank you very much. If you would like to help us in other ways, Kits and Cups, we do incur some costs to bring this show to you. Internet subscriptions, subscriptions to various news feeds, all that type of stuff. If you would like to help us with that, because you appreciate what we do and you would like to encourage us to do more, we would be grateful for your support with a contribution to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, where day in and day out, kits and cubs across the nation do their best to fight the scourge that is dry beaver. Terrible thing. Terrible, terrible thing. So if you would like to do your part to keep your national beaver moist, well then, drop a little coinage in our tip jar and make it jingle, the sound it makes as it hits. Oh, it's so delightful. And it also signals to everyone around you that you are an engaged and informed citizen. And that is very, very sexy. So if you're feeling sexy, give us a tip. All right, enough with the double entendres for now. Kids and cubs, because democracy is something that you do. Remember, coming up close now, the Quebec Liberal leadership race voting opens on the 9th and goes to the 14th. If you are registered, it is too late to register now. But if you are registered, do make sure you vote, because there's a lot of people that do register and don't follow through. You have 5 candidates to vote for, so please, to choose from, I should say. So please do your bit and make sure that the Quebec Liberal Party puts the best candidate possible on the ballot for the next upcoming election. Because right now, if we're looking at the polls, the Parti Québécois is on the way to a majority. And the last thing this nation needs is a separatist movement in Alberta and one in Quebec at the same time. Right? And for those who really would like, for example, a pipeline to Quebec, let's say that is your thing, like this, because you're worried about Line 5 getting cut off and you want to make sure that you're not going to freeze in the dark. If that's a thing for you, well, the Parti Québécois itself, not particularly pro-pipeline in any way, shape, or form. So that's there. I'm not particularly pro-pipeline either, but I also recognize that we're at a pretty interesting moment, and I'm also not pro having everybody Ontario East freezing in the winter because Line 5 can't supply us, or because the United States in a fit of pique decide to cut it. And with this guy, well, that's a very distinct and real possibility. So, yes, in terms of national security and national interest, it's probably a good idea that we have something, but I don't know what, and I don't know how, and I don't know what the right answer is there. But if you're worried about the national security element, chances are that the Parti Québécois will not be cooperative in that. So you have to make an informed decision. And if that's something you don't want for yourself, either two separation referendums happening at the same time, or the possibility of Line 5 being cut off with a party that doesn't seem to want to do anything to ensure that homes can be heated, you might want to vote in that liberal leadership race to make sure that you have the best candidate possible. In Quebec politics, it seems that the Parti Québécois and Québec solidaire are firmly, staunchly against doing anything to be helpful on that, and whereas the CAQ and the Liberal Party are a little more open to it. So those are the lines, the fault lines that are being drawn in that province at the moment. Also, of course, write letters if that's good. Michael Parsa, the Minister of Community and Families, I think, in Ontario, is a good one to write to because, as you know, the first was Children's Day, and in Ontario we have a very, very big problem with children and the child welfare system in terms that there's not enough space for them, and they're being treated very poorly. And the provincial government should get on that. Or maybe, you want Doug Ford to respect treaty right up north, and you want to write to him about that. Or maybe you want Danielle to cool it on separation, and you want to write to her about that. There's lots of reasons to write some messages. So please do. All right? Communicate, call your MPs, call your MLAs, call your MPPs, ask them for a meeting. Let them know what your priorities are and what you expect from them because you are the boss. Now, words of wisdom. Kids and cubs. My words of wisdom for you today are do your best today to do something for yourself that shows you that you have chosen yourself today. So it could be simple as, if you're tired and you feel a nap, you need a nap, but you got a couple of obligations. Just choose the nap. If you can, that's an option, of course. Some obligations you can't get out of. But if you have the option, you have the luxury, choose yourself. Could be something as treat yourself to something. Like, guac is extra. Order it anyway. Go wild. But show yourself some love today, right? As I say, be kind to and gentle with yourself. Because if not you, who will? Right? Start with yourself. And then it spreads. Okay, kids and cubs, time for the audience participation. Oh, I love this. My favorite part. Okay, on the count of 3, kids and cubs, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Oh, yes, 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 yes. That is so beautiful. Everybody, perfect pitch. Lovely. We should record that. Put it on make an album even. I live to serve. Here you go. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. I'm seeing here through the chat here, Linda M going, that Richard Marx song can kind of be seen as a creepy stalker song. It's really interesting because as I was when I was going to the wherever you go, I was like, oh my God, that does sound, it could be. I had that thought too as I was saying it. There were actually a couple of songs like that actually that I know of. U2 did a cover of the classic jazz standard Night and Day for an album called Red Hot and Blue, that if you listen to it, it's really dark and ominous. And it really sounds dark and creepy, like somebody that had more of an unrequited love rather than, the loving night and day, you are the one, right? It's more creepy. And the Holly Call Trio has one called, I think, On the Streets Where You Live, which again is a happy song, but they start it with a really, really ominous and sound going that sounds really creepy, like someone is knowing I'm on the street where you live, which sounds really creepy. So yeah, there are a lot of songs like that that were happy and bouncy that if you just change the melody and like put some darker tones to it and deliver it a little differently, all of a sudden it's like, ooh, I had no idea that was in there. But if you have an opportunity to listen to them, especially if you know the originals, Night and Day by U2 and On the Street Where You Live by the Holly Cole Trio, very, very fantastic Canadian jazz trio. If you like that, and you'll see what I mean. Um, a little bit of Easter egg for you today, kids and cubs. Three little things. This one was brought to us by Kit Saucy originally. There was an article in Reuters that had the title FEMA staff baffled after head said he was unaware of your U.S. hurricane season, sources say. That is boggling. The remark was made during a briefing by David Richardson, who has led FEMA since early May. It was not clear to staff whether he meant it literally as a joke or in some other context. But given that we can't assume in the United States that it is a joke, given he hires the very best people, not knowing there's a hurricane season in the US is like not knowing there's a wildfire season in Canada. There's something literally every year, and there's usually one that's so big that it makes the news like for several days in a row. I'm not sure how you can head FEMA and not know that. I don't know how you can be an American and not know that there's a hurricane season. I mean, you just pick it up by osmosis. It happens every year, several times a year, that there are hurricanes. Anyway, we're living in weird times. Then somebody else pointed out, given that the whole Alberta separation thing here is going on, we have Stephen Maurer, who describes himself as a Laurentian proletarian, also an author, and he brings our attention to a document of statement of principles from the then Reform Party, and he brings attention to Principle 1, which reads, "We affirm our commitment to Canada as one nation, indivisible, and to our vision of Canada as a balanced federation of equal provinces and citizens." Oh my, how we've strayed. And finally, this, kids and cubs, is from Todd Mafflin, who we've featured on the show before, a couple of his videos and creations, and we've reached out to, and hopefully we can get him as a guest on the show because he is a very, very hilariously funny man, and he produced something that, in my estimation, is one of the funniest things I've seen. I was laughing so hard. It was a short, and the short's loop, and I was laughing so hard and couldn't stop laughing that it played like maybe about 8 or 9 times in a row before I could stop. But every subsequent time that was playing, it would just make me start laughing. So I am hoping that it will have it will tickle your funny bone in the way that it has indeed tickled mine.
They say when America sneezes, the world catches a cold. But when Canada sneezes, Americans slap a tariff on Kleenex. Once I sneezed in Lethbridge, and a bald eagle crashed through my window holding an invoice. I tried to dispute it, but the eagle had an AK-47.
And now, Deep Canadian Thoughts with Jock Handy.
It's a little dark, I admit, but I couldn't stop laughing. Today, still funny. So there you go. Hopefully that gave you a laugh too. All right, kids and cubs. It's just so wrong and so right. Uh, I wish you a good day. Have a perfect day. Amour et bisous, mes amours. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. I see you laughing in the chat here, kids. Oh, God. I love you. You guys are so great. See you tomorrow.